SFC Fans React, back with another video. I know it's been a while, it's been a few months, but me and Michael Bowers are back to give a season review, and what a fantastic ending to a brilliant season it was, Michael Bowers. Michael Bowers, first of all, how are you doing? Good to see you, bro. Good to see you, bro.
Yeah, lovely to see you back, bro.
Been too long.
No, absolutely. Shaun, you guys have no idea how much I've been badgering Shaun to do this, and I know, you know, Shaun's got a life. How dare he? But yeah, to be fair, it's. I'm still. I think we both said. I'm still on cloud nine.
Mm-hmm.
Generally, I'm doing all right actually, but obviously, us getting promoted massively helps it.
Right.
And it's got to be said, I think that we'll get on to the playoffs in a bit, but that weekend, we'll just quickly sum it up. That weekend at Wembley was one of the best weekends of my life.
Absolutely, Michael. I went on the Saturday morning, but the Friday night I didn't sleep very well, so I was dead on my feet in the ground, and I had all intentions to do the fans' reactions and do a bit videoing. But by the time I got the game, all my energy was used and just getting behind the team, singing, shouting.
You'd have been mentally shattered by the end of the day,
I was shattered, mate. I was absolutely shattered. And that was probably one of the greatest days in your life, wasn't it? Really? That moment at Wembley was just absolutely. It was phenomenal, wasn't it?
Do you remember the jubilance everyone had when you did the interviews when we beat Wickham 3 years ago?
Yeah.
Remember that? It probably would have been that, but on steroids this time.
This is what I mean. That would have been.
This is a much bigger game.
On a bigger scale, isn't it? A bigger scale. But Michael, before we get to all the good stuff at the end, we want to go back at the start. And we're going to go through it one by one. We're going to go through the season.
No, I'm perfectly happy. Just to warn you guys, a lot of it will probably be talking about the playoffs, but we kind of we discussed before we started recording about what we wanted to get on and talk about on air. And I think one of the things I wanted to talk about was like over the regular 46 game season. Because if you look going into the start of the season, it was quite weird, and actually it doesn't feel that long ago. You remember a year ago? It wasn't actually. It was like 10 months ago. We were sitting pretty much in this very spot in the Hilton, doing one of these things, and we were talking about how poor the end of last season. Well, now the season before last was when we finished 16th. Then obviously Regis Labrise comes in, which at the time was the kind of appointment I expected to make once we sacked Mowbray. I didn't expect, and obviously look, we know what happened with Michael Beale. That was an absolute disaster. Dodd's ball wasn't any better, really, when you think about it. Although I do believe, to be fair, I do believe Dodds when he said that taking over from Beale would have been exceptionally difficult. And I think I don't give Dodds as much some accountability I give him, but not as much in comparison to what I do with Beale. I think the Beale appointment did a lot more damage, and I've said to you in group chats before, that appointment damaged a lot of more things than we realised. But to lead on to this season, sorry to make everyone depressed, but then you look at this season, Regis Labrise comes in, no one knows anything about him, and that was the kind of appointment I was thinking, right, okay then, let's see what happened. Obviously at Lorient, he did really well in his first season. I think he got them top half in League, the French League, top French division. Then I think, but obviously the second season, a number of his key players apparently were sold under his nose, and they ended up getting relegated. So I think it was one of those where I was a bit trapped. Obviously me being clean sheet,
Mr. Clean Sheet, mate.
I'm not going to finish the last word that I call myself because I don't think Shaun would appreciate it on camera. But let's just say I looked at his Lorient's defensive record in the second season under him, and I was a bit concerned. I'm not going to lie, but at the same time I also thought, well, hang on, he had a lot of his best players sold under his nose, so let's see how he does. And then if you go into here's one. So I don't know how you feel about it now, but what would your expectations for the regular season were going into it?
Obviously, when I was going to mention, Mike, as well, the managers what turned us down, and I don't want to put a damp on it. You had Will Still, he turned us down on the last minute, didn't he? He decided to...
Well, apparently he went to Lens because they were in Europe, and then they got knocked out in the Europa League Conference qualifying stage.
But there was
which was really funny.
There was another couple, wasn't there? There was the one from the Hullman
Paul, didn't you say Paul Heckenbottom apparently turned us down?
Yeah, that was another one. There was 3 or 4. And there was that ex-Hull manager. What's he called?
Liam Rosenia.
Rosenia. He turned us down.
Done very well, actually.
So Will Still, Rosenia, Heckenbottom. There was somebody else, wasn't there, mate? I'm sure.
I was going to say Danny Rowe, but I never think we went in for him, did we?
No, there was
compensation. To be fair, the compensation that Shaun put on him was ridiculous. So yeah, I know what you mean. Though there were a few head coaches turning us down. I think there was. There was a Dutch lad turning us down. Was it Pascal Jensen? I think it was.
Yeah. Where was he from again?
I can't remember. Some geezer in Holland.
But that's that long ago. It's like,
but it's funny given what's happened. It doesn't. You forget how that was. To me, right? I think. Look, whether Labrise was first choice, from the hierarchy, I have no idea. Quite frankly, right now I don't care because we've ended up getting promoted. So it ended up absolutely proving to be the right choice.
Credit,
I did say, to be fair though, that although I was frustrated last summer, and I remember this a year ago, I was getting very frustrated at how long it was taking to appoint somebody.
Yeah.
But I did say that's okay as long as the appointment's the right
one.
And in the end, it has been categorical.
Well, that's, I mean,
and look, don't get me wrong, Lebris hasn't been 100% stellar perfect.
Absolutely.
But again,
not,
you've got to remember, it's his first full season in an entirely new culture, new country, English football. The Championship's a brutal division. So, that I think he's done obviously he's done exceptionally well. He's got us promoted, but and we'll get onto that in a minute. But going into the season, I was of the opinion that I felt like, I think in my Championship predictions, I had us to finish 9th, and the only reason I had us that low was because I didn't know how Lebris was going to adapt into the Championship. But I always felt that 16th last season, a year ago, was a bit of a
massive underachievement.
It was a
the players were underperforming.
I know there are some fans that are under the illusion that the table never lies. But I think the table was a bit misleading because I think our squad was better than about half.
A lot better.
It was better.
Last 10 games.
It was also better than half. At least 6 to 8 teams that finished above us, in my opinion.
And no disrespect to Mike Dodds here as well. I know he's went to Wickham and it hasn't really worked.
Don't you dare diss Dodds, Paul.
It hasn't worked out.
No, well, they didn't go up, did they?
No, and I mean, no disrespect, but when he first...
He's not a number one coach.
When he first left Sunderland, when we went on a bit of on a downward spiral, people see, is it because Mike Dodds left the dressing room?
I was one of them.
Feeling that?
I was one of them. I asked that. I think what's categorically proven for me now is that Dodds is definitely not a head coach material, but he was definitely offering something of value behind the scenes where the players really responded to Dodds, and I think it's just a case of that he just isn't a head coach. And I think I wouldn't be surprised if he's out of the job from Wickham in a few months' time, to be honest. But that's so in which case getting back on the coaching team probably. Which is half joking, half serious.
He might actually come back, To
be fair, I wouldn't be against it either. But look, that's a different conversation. But I think you look at that, and I think going into the season, I was expecting to be challenging for playoffs. Truthfully, I felt we had a squad that was capable of finishing in them if you sorted out
a couple of areas.
Well, striker, which we kind of got bored. You might as well have had Sunderland YouTube bingo every time we said sign a striker. You would have to have a drinking challenge and then see how mortal everyone gets after about 10 minutes. But to be fair, I mean, one of the things you got to talk about if you're talking going into the season. So for me, it was about challenging for playoffs. Never, and if we just take the playoffs out of it for a moment, of what happened in them, because obviously that's the best bit.
Yeah.
But if you look at the last 5 games were
abysmal.
Well, yeah, they were.
But can you remember what I sent to you in the WhatsApp chat? I said, soon as, and this is what Reggie...
as soon as we knew playoffs were done.
He said on his interview on I don't think it was Sky, but it was like a foreign channel, I think. He said that as soon as the playoffs was confirmed, he could tinker with the squad, which he did. He could not rush players back who were injured. He could
we had that luxury, didn't we?
Yeah, this is what I'm saying. And that's just the people. Take notice of the last few games where we've been beat. We lost the last 5 games, I think. Take notice of that, because you'll see...
There was at least 2 or 3 of them where we had half a team out pretty much,
When it comes to the playoff, the semi-final, we'll be ready. Whether or not we're ready properly, because, I mean, over the 2 legs against Coventry...
they were.
They were the better side.
We'll go into it in a minute. But look, even if you look at the last, for me, like I've said, I think that if you look at even the last 6 games, you include the draw away at Norwich. We started off the top of my head. I think we started Alexic and Watson and. Obviously Mayenda. The development he's come on has been ridiculous, but we'll get on him in a bit.
Yeah.
But I think taking the last 6 games out of it, though, I think the Brees has got to be given, and it looks better now because we won the playoffs. But he's got to be given immense credit for the fact that he had us competing in the automatic promotion race probably up until the back end of February. Really, when you look at it, and that's up against 3 clubs. And I know this is probably boring for some people to hear this, but. And if we say we go down next season, we're going to be one of these clubs now where it's going to be the parachute payment clubs.
It's going to help us.
And unfortunately, that's just the landscape now.
Yeah.
I suppose for us, fortunately, if we're in the Championship in just over a year, although we hope we're not, hopefully we'll stay up. But that's a different question altogether. But the point is, he had us competing. If you just look off the top of your head, look at the squad look at Leeds' squad. Look how much that cost compared to ours. Burnley, exactly the same thing. Sheffield United, Sheffield United probably spent more on Tom Cannon, who I like, by the way. I like Tom Cannon, but they spent more on Tom Cannon than we probably did across the whole of the entire season.
The whole team, If
you look at it, so for Lebris to have us competing against that, and for 3 quarters of it, really, is absolutely incredible. And let's not forget, when we played Leeds, Burnley and Sheffield United in the regular season, maybe apart from Leeds at home to an extent, I didn't think we look out of place against any of them. If you go through all of the 2 games against Leeds, truthfully, I think Leeds deserve to beat us up here,
Yeah.
but we deserved a point down there.
Yeah.
So I would say a point and a draw and a loss is about right against Leeds.
Yeah,
but
I
then
agree,
when you look at Burnley. Remember the interview we did after Burnley at home, just after Clark was sold.
Yeah.
We battered Burnley that day.
We did. We
And
played really well that day.
I know Burnley.
1-0, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I know Burnley had a few key players out because of they were going through a few sales at the time themselves. But off the top of my head, they had Lyle Foster, they had Josh Brownhill, they had I think their defence, apart from Dara O'Shea, was exactly the same as the one that had scored 9 goals in the first 2 games.
Yeah.
There was quality on Burnley's team that day, and we made them look bang average, and we should have won by more. Burnley away. Yeah. Had it not been for James Trafford being the hero, we do the double over Burnley. Sheffield United, I still to this day, as Shaun knows, I've said this all along, I think Sheffield United by far out of the 3 of them are the weakest.
Yeah, I agree.
And I'm not saying that they're obviously rubbish, because they're not. They gained 92 points, but in the games we played against them, Bramall Lane,
them 2 games,
we were robbed of at least a point down at Bramall Lane.
We missed a penalty, whatever. Mettman got sent off.
Missed some big chances.
Missed loads of chances.
Yeah.
We played them down there. We should have won that game, and we ended up losing it late on. And that's the way things was going back then.
Yeah.
So. Theoretically speaking, we were better than them home and away, Sheffield United.
I agree, and then even the game up here, because I think Sheffield United were better against us at the Stadium Light than they were Bramall Lane. But I still think we deserve to win that night, because I felt like it's all well and good having more of the ball, but we created we created the better chances that night, and I think that. So we weren't out of place against any of them. And then, Sheffield United, we've beaten 2 out of 3 times, including the playoffs we played them. So I think that Bruce has got to be given a massive amount of credit for that. And let's not forget, we sold Jack Clark at the start of the season as well.
Yeah, that was a big seal.
That gets forgotten about.
Yeah, it was a big seal.
And that was a lot of them where some people, I remember some of our fans, some neutral fans, when that happened, went, Sunderland's got no chance of doing anything now. And it's like, well, this is where...
Then you had Mundell. This
is where you come about the model and succession planning. Yeah. That's where it matters. But and Mundell's had his injury problems, to be fair. And then you had Tommy Watson. Obviously, we'll get onto the Brighton stuff, I'm sure. But, at the end of the day, if you look at the regular season, what was it? 676 points we finished on.
Yeah.
Now, truthfully, if you said to me, forget the playoffs for a second. You said to me, the regular start of the season, we would finish way ahead of everyone 5th downwards below. Out of the non-parachute teams, we were easily the best. I know Coventry finished, I think it was 7 points behind us in the end. But again...
Was that what it was, 7 points?
It was, but remember, we jacked in the last half dozen games.
The last 5 games...
That gap would have been much bigger if we hadn't jacked in the last 5 games.
Last 5 games, we weren't even trying, man. And Regis Labrice, he actually said that in an interview, as I was saying earlier on. He said, once the automatics is gone and the place was confirmed, he then had the...
We then were preparing for it.
Yeah,
we had that in mind
for the two semi-final games.
Exactly.
So he could tinker with the team. He could rest players there. He could not rush back the players what was injured. He could bring them back. When they were
absolutely bang on,
fresh and ready. And I think that it worked out really well in the end. But Mike, I just want to go back to the start. From the transfer window and the players we brought in. What was your feelings on the transfer window? Do you think Christian Speakman and Stuart Harvey done a good job with the players we brought in? And the first 10 games, I know, were a fantastic start, not losing a game, and we were top of the table for a long period of time.
Yeah, I think if you look at, I mean, obviously the big talking point of the summer window was Clark's departure, and that was, and by the way, very quickly, I mean, I know we've swapped places with Ipswich, but I don't begrudge Clark going to Ipswich.
Not at all.
I don't begrudge him going to the Prem, because remember, and I said it at the start of the
Ian
season.
Hart. Don't like him, mind.
See you next Tuesday, he is. But anyway,
agent.
If you
horrible.
Absolutely. If you look at it though, I think with quickly on the Clark thing, that Johnny Rowe at Norwich, who was a left winger, same position as Clark, he basically went on strike and ruined his reputation with Norwich fans at the start of the season. And I've said all along, Clark could easily have done that, but he didn't. He played the first 2 games in full acknowledgement. He could go down injured, and that would prevent that could prevent his move. So I've still got respect for Clark. He's welcome to come back if he wants. But obviously the Prem's a different animal. But I don't blame him for having a shot at the Premier League. But the point is, that was the big talking point. We sold Clark, and I think that at that point, I don't think people... I know Mundell's had his injury problems, but I don't think at that point many people expected Mundell to have the impact he did.
To do as good as what he did, yeah.
And I do believe that even when he didn't score in games, I think there was games where we missed him when he was injured. So and that's a really good testament to how that was good forward planning, where 6 months prior to Clark going, you had Mundell coming in, giving him the 6 months to bed in, and then when Clark left, Mundell's like, bang, there's your chance. And to be fair, until he got injured... against Coventry, I think it was, in the November game up here.
Yeah.
He was one of our best players at the start of the season. But as far as the transfer window goes, I mean, if you look at it, we've got Isidore. I know we ended up signing him permanently later, but Isidore, you had Chris Meffam coming in. I think they were the sort of Alan Brown. I think was a really underrated. Was a really underrated
Experienced,
one. Exactly, because we
championship player,
even as someone who got sick of the whole experience thing, even I started to admit, you need to sign some experience in there. And I think Alan Brown, he was a signing I think a lot of people were pretty happy with. He was the first one I think we did.
Yeah.
And obviously that was because it was a 29-year-old. Obviously he would have had a signing on fee and agent's fee, but he was generally didn't have a transfer fee attached to his signature come to him signing for us. So I think that was a big one. I think obviously Chris Meffam had a bit of a wobble in the lead up to the playoffs, but in general I think he's been very good.
He's been I think Meffam's been one of my best players. He's been consistently good, but I mean that other call by Regis Lebray to take out Meffam and bringing Ballard was a big decision.
It was,
and it was a one what ultimately
it paid
didn't
off.
it?
But to be fair to Meffam, I thought as in the second half in the playoff final he played really well actually.
Yeah.
But so you had players like that. You had obviously the big disappointment for me was not getting an out-and-out striker. But at that point, we didn't know that Isidore.
Mayenda was going to.
Mayenda was going to develop. Mayenda was going to develop the rate he has, and Isidore's chipped in with 13 goals, including one of them in the playoffs against Coventry.
And all these goals as well have been they've been the really good goals, haven't they?
The problem is with him, he just misses the easy chances.
This is what
some of the goals he scored have been great. Like the volley against Coventry was class. Yeah. The one against Oxford was mental. But to be fair, one goal that's actually really underrated from Isidore for me is his goal against Leeds. Because
that was an unreal finish.
If you remember that Ballard obviously, and that was a big game at the time.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously we lost it in the end, but Ballard whipped the ball forward from the right flank, and then Isidore was getting manhandled, I think, by Ethan Ampadu, I think it was. And Ampadu's one of the best midfielders or best players in the championship. But Isidore managed to hold him off, show the strength, and then the finish was great because every time he goes in off the post or the bar, it looks better. But I mean, no. So don't get me wrong. There has been periods where Isidore, I think, hasn't been quite as good at the end of the season. But you can't ignore the fact him and Mayenda between them, including the playoffs, I think got 23 goals between them. Yeah. So looks like it was good to finally not say striker. I mean, we might need one for the Premier League, obviously, but but to quickly touch on the striker thing, I think we got to talk about Mayenda. I think and he's a perfect example of what I've been on about when I say I think Sunderland fans have been far too quick to write certain players off. It doesn't mean you can give them infinite amount of patience, because at some point some point they have to show something, don't they?
This is why I've come off Twitter, because you're just getting arguing with people about, if you've got an opinion, you're like sort of, I don't think he's, I don't do that thing where you see, like you said, writing people off. You've got to give them at least. I mean,
at some point you've got to expect something of them, obviously. But I think.
Well, I knew there was something there. Isidore early. I knew there was something there. You could see there was something.
To be fair, you got to give credit. I mean, I know haven't been his biggest fan, but even Tony Mowbray, when he was here, said with Mayenda, he's the one I see something in. And to be fair, he did spot something in him well enough. And I think even if you look at the first game, was it against Sheffield Wednesday when he scored, when won 4-0, he scored 2 goals.
He looked brilliant, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
He took his goals really well, man.
And you remember the first game away at Cardiff, I think it was.
Yeah.
I think it was a Job fed him through in a one-on-one chance. So the important thing there was Mayenda was starting to get into the positions, and that comes through coaching, and it comes through getting a bit of game experience. And you got to remember, he's just turned 20 years old. And for me, the best goal he scored, that goal at Bristol City. I know we lost in the end, that solo goal was just absolutely insane. We were down to 10 men at that point as well. So Mayenda's come on really well. Isidore's obviously played his part massively. And remember, both of them combined, I think, cost around £4 million.
Do you think this? I mean, I'm going to come to Chris and speaking here. Do you think, because he gets a lot of flack, doesn't he? Still, I mean, is that still the same on Twitter? Does he still get that sort?
I think he gets a lot less now.
Do you think he's looked at them two, Isidore and Mayenda, and thought, you know what, these two are going to come good in this season, and the fans, not that he's got to justify something from it. He has to a certain extent, but he's put his net on the line, because the fans are calling for a striker, a number. Want there's somebody who can put that ball in the net and get you 20 goals. And do you think he was looking and saying, well, I think these two can do it?
Possibly. I mean, the thing is with Isidore in particular, when he first signed, I was under the impression he was going to be a left winger or a left-sided player who could play up front.
That's what they were saying at the
But for me, I think having watched him, I think he's definitely better as a striker, even if he hasn't been great at the end of the season.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a big call to. Because, I mean, we were looking at, I think we were linked with Tom Cannon in both windows.
We were heavily linked with him.
I very much remember after Clark was sold, And it's funny how we started putting permanent bids in for these players after Clark was sold. Almost like what I've been saying, which is that once you get bigger sales, you start to spend more.
Yeah.
And so I remember that John Percy from the Daily Telegraph, remember, he's someone who's like a Midlands-based reporter for the Telegraph.
Yeah.
And he was putting, and at the time, this was before he went to Stoke, Sunderland had apparently put a bid of £5 million in for Tom Cannon.
Really?
Which was right after Clark had been sold.
Right.
Obviously, he hasn't done well for Sheffield United, but the point is we put bids in for those players. There was a player called Gift Orban, I think it was, for who was it? Was it Leon? Leon in the French League. But anyway, the point is we were pushing for a striker, and on deadline day I was disappointed we didn't get one. But in hindsight, you look at it and you go, you know what? It's not Mayenda. I mean, and so that was a big call just sticking with them. But I mean, both of them, particularly Mayenda, with how he had with nowhere near it last year,
Michael,
paid him back in spades.
You look at the model, right? We're keeping saying about the model, right? And
sorry in advance if you're going to be sick of the word model by the end of it.
No, but you
yeah,
look at this, right?
word.
And you look at our club right now, and now we're going back and forth here. We'll probably stay that a lot for this video. You look at the financial state now of our club. This is the best financial state our club's been in for a long, long time. We're back in the Premier League, right? We've literally, the wage bill is one of the lowest in the Championship. We've getting to the Premier League on a very
I would say probably a mid-table Championship.
a very short
you know.
budget.
Yeah.
I think what have I spent? You worked it out. I mean,
Okay, right. If you're talking permanent fees,
yeah,
I think you had Milan Alexic, Abdullah Abdullahi, because I keep forgetting we signed him.
Yeah.
And then obviously Isidor's transfer was made permanent in January.
Yeah, so
if I'm right, that was around £8 to £8.5 million between
them.
With
Yeah,
them.
yeah.
And then obviously you got Lefay, which was loan, loan. But the point is,
obligation to buy one.
basically the Clark money funded all of that.
Yeah, yeah.
Because if you look at it, Clark was sold, I think, was it for 15 million originally?
Plus 5 with add-ons.
But you got
I
to
think.
remember, Spurs get a quarter of that. So,
Yeah.
so originally we would have got just over 11 million. So this is where, when people say, "Where's the money gone?" Well, all you got to do is do a little bit of digging, and you find out exactly where it's gone. So that money, but anyway, so that money's been spent, and we've gone up to the Prem for that. So I think that if you're talking about the model now, look, there's definitely going to be a bit of adapting that has to be done for the Prem in terms of both what we spend and the type of profile of player we're going for. But I think as far as it's been in the Championship, this is where the model's kind of progressed to the point where we're now at the end of year 4 of it, I think.
Yeah.
Like the first full season, I mean.
Yeah.
And remember the models again. I'm getting sick of that word now. But the plan was from their first full season. So for context, the first full season was the 2021-22 season.
Yeah.
Which was the year we had Shaun's favourite Lee Johnson at the start, and then obviously Alex Neil came in at the end.
Yeah.
That was the first year. So then you had that year. You had the Tony Mowbray playoff year, which was year 2, the first year back in the Championship.
Yeah.
Then the Mowbray Beale Dodds.
The disaster year when the wheels come off.
Yeah, exactly. That was year 3. Then this season's been year 4.
Yeah.
So they've done a 5-year plan in 4 years to get
So
to the Prem. So the point is, even if we hadn't had gone up, I do think financially we still would have been in good enough shape
for next season.
But obviously the trouble is that it might. I mean, look, there's rumours about Job going anyway, but. Even if even if Job was likely to go now, he definitely would have gone if we hadn't gone up.
Oh, 100%.
Even if he goes
1
now.
million
But you
percent,
got to remember, he probably wouldn't have been the only one.
But I think Christian Speakman, he's close to the Bellingham family, and I think he's said he's convinced him to stay 1 more year, and I think Job's basically said, irrespective of what happens.
We'll give you 1 more year, and then we need.
Then kind of leave after 1 year. But if he's leaving, he's getting the team back where it belongs. To the
Personally, for me, I'm disappointed that he doesn't. I would have thought he would have wanted to. I'd have thought he would have wanted to play a year in the Premier League, but look, he's part of the team that's got us up. So he leaves with my best wishes.
Do you think the family members have looked at it and thought he's 19 now? Jude had a year or 2 at Birmingham, then he moved to Borussia Dortmund, done 2 years there, and he stopped whenever they went right through the roof.
Don't get me wrong. I think Joe Bellingham will play for England as a regular at some stage.
You really think he's that good?
Yeah. I mean, obviously right now he won't, but I think in the next, don't be surprised when the next
3 or 4 years.
I wouldn't be surprised if within the next, say, 2 tournaments. So maybe not next year, but the one after that. I would not be surprised if he's part of the first team squad then.
Yeah.
So that would be Euro 2028, I think, at the time of recording. So, but look, as far as the one thing you want with Joe going before we get back to the season is that if you want multiple clubs to be in for him, because what does it do? It drives the price up.
Of course.
And remember, he's under contract for another 3 years, and we're a Premier League club now.
Exactly. So we
should get a lot of money.
We're not getting no pants pulled down here. We should be looking at. I mean, there's the figure. I says to you, I don't see a reason why we shouldn't be looking at 30 million plus for Bellingham.
No,
if people say, it's just because his brother, the name. I think he's got something about him.
If anything, he's underrated because of the fact his surname.
So how much would you say is a reasonable fee, mate?
The bare minimum.
Birmingham, 15%.
The bare minimum should be 25 million. Bare minimum for me. Now they're in the Premier League. Anything less, I think, is quite poor.
Yeah. I agree with that. Yeah,
and Birmingham's 15. I think it's a 15% sell on. So say you get 25 million, you get just over 21 million.
Yeah,
but you got to remember, 2 years ago we paid up to 3 million for him.
It was, I think, it was 1.75, but then it was add-ons. Then
with add-ons, it was 3
percentage on that.
Yeah, exactly. And I suppose some of those clauses would have been dependent on promotion as well. So I think at the end of the day, look, I mean. But that's an example of how the strategy or the model works, because sometimes you've got... So these are why you have to get these players in, because we keep forgetting we were in League One 3 years ago. We just got out of League One 3 years ago. And although Sunderland in the Championship, well, in the Premier League, really, but Sunderland in the Championship definitely should be able to attract the best of the best in that division.
Right, exactly.
But at the same time, you've got to balance that by saying 4 years in League One probably set us back quite a bit. So I think that this is and I've said loads of times, this is the way that caught the Mandalorian from Star Wars there. This is the main way that if you're going to compete against parachute payment clubs, this is the best way to do it. Because if you sometimes one big sale, it's a bit like the scattergun Moneyball approach, like what say Brentford did. And I know that's an easy comparison to make now, but if you look at someone like Brentford, obviously you have one big sale that funds everything else. So say, for example, the year Brentford went up to the Premier League, that was the lockdown year. The year we won the stuffed crust pizza cup. But that year...
Papa John's.
Yeah, exactly. What a
Jesus
day. God. To be fair, it's 3 straight wins at Wembley now, actually.
No, that's one way of looking at it,
exactly.
as well.
Yeah, obviously that was by far the least important. But the point is, that season, Brentford sold Ollie Watkins, I think it was, to Villa for something like 30 million quid. And with that, they bought Ivan Toney. So straight away, Toney being Watkins' replacement, that's the Moneyball approach that helped them get to the Premier League, and look where they are now. So this is kind of the best way you're going to have a chance of competing against parachute clubs. So if we hadn't had gone up, yes, okay, Job's probably going to go now anyway, but we're in a healthier position to command a bigger fee. And with Job we probably would have been anyway, because he's still under contract for another 3 years.
3 years,
But I think now we've got a much better chance of keeping Dan Neil, tying him down to a longer contract.
Absolutely. Dan Neil's still, isn't it?
I think so now. I think he signs a new deal now.
No doubt.
Whereas if we hadn't gone up, that would have been something that would have gone
like a question mark would be with Dan Neil.
Yeah, it would have been a bigger question mark if we hadn't gone up. Chris Riggs, another one. I wouldn't be surprised if he stayed now for another year.
I think he's still got He's
got 2 years left. But I would like us to try and get him tied down to a longer contract. Save like a longer one, then in a year's time he can leave.
We can do that now with the Sky money now. I mean, it's see when you get promoted, it's worth at least 220, at least 220 to 250 million.
Am I right in thinking you get more for being promoted by the playoffs as well somehow than finishing?
Really?
I don't know where I read that. But
I thought it was all the same, the 3 teams.
It should be.
I could be.
Well, the teams that finish first and second should get more. Really.
I think I'm sure it's just all the same. The 3 teams.
Maybe. Who knows? But so I think to get onto this season, to sort of conclude the bit of that, the main season. How would you view the? I mean, okay, it's a bit difficult. How would you have graded the main season before the playoffs happened? So try and remove Coventry and Sheffield United, obviously, beforehand. So we finished.
But to be fair, at the start of the season, I looked at the squad and I thought it lacked experience again. I thought we lacked experience. I wasn't sure about Regis Lebris. I was sort of on the fence.
None of us were. We didn't know.
Because I didn't know nothing about him. Yeah. But then we started the season so well. First 10 games, we were top of the league. I think I'm not sure what point Clark left, but
I can tell you because I'm sad. It was just before. It was a couple of days before the Burnley game, the 1-0 home.
Just before the window shuts, wasn't it?
Yeah. So he played the first 2 games in the league, Cardiff away and Sheffield at home,
and then he went
and then left before Burnley.
But then me and you were convinced. We talked about this. We said that Mundell is a more than capable replacement. So I was happy there, and I was still a bit unsure about the striker situation because I mean he should always like to see an unknown, and Miranda is still very young, very raw, but he started the season well. But I thought we start the season like better than what I expected. To be fair, we're unbeaten at home or something like that. But then was just started a little bit of a blip, didn't we? Where we lost one, then I think our first loss was Plymouth away, wasn't it? Where
Plymouth away was that was the 5th game. We won the first 4, then lost at Plymouth. Then we beat the. What was it? The B-Tech Leeds United in Middlesbrough. I've got respect for Borough.
I thought we.
I think we lost to Plymouth and Watford, but they were our only 2 defeats until something like Sheffield United at the end of November.
Oh yeah.
I think they were anyway. I could be wrong on that. But yeah, but even then, well, I'll tell you what.
Did we not go unbeaten for the first 10 games? Am I getting that wrong?
No.
Oh, my memory's getting shot a bit.
We didn't lose at home until the end of February.
That's what.
At home, we didn't lose until we lost at Hull at the end of February.
Then.
But you've got to, in the league anyway, we lost at home to Stoke in the FA Cup, but who cares about that? But if you look at it though, right? I mean, if you look after when we beat Oxford 2-0, for example.
Yeah.
That was like near the back end of October.
Yeah.
We were on something like 28 points, and we were like 5 points clear at the top. Now. Obviously, at that stage, I still knew we were not going to probably finish top of the league.
Yeah.
Because at some point we were going to have a bit of a dip,
a bit of a blip.
Yeah, but
I had a feeling.
one of the best things I can say, if you'd asked me before Coventry away in the playoffs, how would I have graded the league season? I'd have probably said an 8 out of 10.
Yeah.
Purely because of the fact that we finished. We obviously 16th. We shouldn't have finished the year before, but we jumped up 12 places. We're comfortably clear of everyone below us.
Yeah.
We obviously were in that line of limbo midpoint where we were too far off the top two, and we knew that wasn't going to happen.
But we're still in contention over to us.
No.
A certain amount of time,
I more meant after February, but
Yeah.
But in general, no, we were competing for top two for the first probably 5 months or so of the season. Probably the first maybe 3/4 or 2/3 of the season. We were competing for automatics, and even then, we've never. I think it was after the first half a dozen games or something. We never dropped below 4th place.
Yeah, so
you've got to look at that for a non-parachute team. That's probably and considering the points gap that Leeds and Burnley and Sheffield United finished on, that's probably the best we could have hoped for, really.
Yeah,
I mean, for good, I saw some comments.
The two of them.
I saw some comments before the playoffs saying, "We should have done more to finish in the top two." I'm like, Leeds and Burnley got 100 points. How we?
I mean,
Sheffield United even got 90
don't
points.
get us wrong. I mean, Leeds and Burnley were brilliant. I mean, I think I says that Scott Park, he's had promotion with Bournemouth, Fulham, and now Burnley. He's got experience of getting out of the league, and you knew Leeds had a good team. You would be up there.
Can I just point out, I feel like a really big... sorry for swearing a little bit of smart arse here, because I said at the start of the season Leeds and Burnley would be top two in that order.
I'm pretty certain I said...
See, jumping on the right bandwagon now. Who did you say for top two?
I'm sure I says.
You would have said at least one of them.
I'm sure I says Leeds and Burnley.
Yeah.
We did it on the North East Sports Update with that lad.
I think the year before we did. I don't think we did it for this year.
Did we not?
I don't think so, but I could be wrong.
I think we did.
But I checked back my predictions. I wrote down my notes, and I definitely had Leeds and Burnley in that order for first and second.
And I think I had Sheffield United in the top six as well.
I think, to be fair, I think if I'm right, my playoffs at the start of the season, I think it was Leeds, Burnley. Then embarrassingly, it was Luton third, which that went.
I had Luton for 6th.
Yeah,
I think.
But to be fair, I think everyone was surprised at how bad Luton
they just
done.
went a free fall, didn't they?
Well, we're no longer the last team who've done back-to-back relegations now.
They've done a Sunderland, didn't they? Back-to-back relegation.
Well done, Luton. Now you know how fun it's not.
Fair,
but I think we had Luton. I think I had Luton. Then I think it was Coventry. Then Sheffield United. Then West Brom. I think that was my top 6 at the start of the season.
Yeah.
But anyway, the point is, you've got to look at it and you say, we were competing against 3 parachute payment clubs, and again, I know it's a boring thing to say, but the advantage they've got,
massive advantage.
The advantage they've got over everyone else in the league, and this is why we've done exceptionally to get promoted this season, really. But we competed against them. As I said, every time we only lost twice out of 6 games in the regular season to the 3 teams who finished above us. Leeds was the last minute, and Sheffield United was a game that we dominated a lot of, and somehow didn't get anything out of.
Should have gotten something out of that
unbeaten
game.
against all 3 of them at the Stadium of Light as well. Although maybe we got a bit lucky with the Leeds one when Melier decided to hoy it in the back of his own net. But to be fair though to Leeds, that point helped you win the league in the end. So you take your credit where it's due. But so if you go into just the regular season before the playoffs, I'd have said 8 out of 10. I think if you look at it, if you look at the regular season, I think you couldn't have asked for much more.
I'd agree with you. I'd agree with you, Michael, bro. I think.
Obviously, the playoffs has helped increase that rating to a 10.
I think
Spoiler.
If we finish in the playoffs, considering what happened last season, and we underachieved, I was still unsure about.
But we would have took playoffs at the start of the season. I think,
absolutely. You'd have took your hand. You would have took your hand.
Even just sneaking into 6th on the last day or something, you'd have taken.
Yeah.
But obviously, so to lead into the playoffs now, I think that obviously the bit we're probably going to be excited to talk about. I think before the playoffs, the season for me was an 8 out of 10. Now it's a 10.
Yeah.
I think now it's got to be a 10.
It's got to be because you've achieved the.
You've achieved promotion.
You've achieved
and you've got to bear in mind that you know, the only way, I think for me, realistically, the only way we were going to get promoted was by winning the playoffs.
Ah, no,
and that was the only way it was going to happen, because there was no way we were going to get 100 points.
Burnley and Leeds,
you know,
and that.
we would have had to have got 101 points.
Do you think though, Michael? I mean, there was a lot of games where we conceded like late goals and games that we should have seen. I mean,
I get that.
Winning Company 2-0 and
well, even if
conceding 2 late goals.
Even if you want to look at it, Burnley away, even though we didn't concede, missed two penalties.
You
know,
and
the second half at Burnley, we battered them as well.
You look at certain games, and I think I could honestly count them on one hand 5 games where we could have gotten 15 points, and we only getting.
No.
You know what I mean?
No, it's a very fair argument. I mean, thankfully in the end it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
but I know what you mean. Yeah,
thank God.
There is a definite argument for that, but I think to sort of, I'll tell you something. I want to ask you this now, because it segues into the playoff games. Mm-hmm. I remember that the start of saying across April, obviously we were out of the top 2 race by that point. I was keeping obviously a keen eye on who was going to miss out on the automatics for the playoffs.
Yeah.
And I can't remember if it was you or Dave Lawrence. Love you, Dave, if you're watching. Even though he's a sneaky booker, so he probably won't be. Love you, Dave. But I remember, I think I got asked quite a few times. I can't remember if it was off you or me mates or whatever it was. Mm-hmm. Who do you want to miss out on the top 2?
Yeah.
And I was quite consistent in saying Sheffield United.
Was that because you've seen them as the weakest out the
I saw them. Don't get me wrong. I make Sheffield United sound like they played like Luton did this year, which obviously they didn't.
Yeah.
They were much better than Luton, and they're obviously a playoff standard team for me. But here's the way I looked at it. I felt there's obviously the hilarity. If Leeds had missed out on the top 2, there's the Leeds are falling apart again. But even with that, come on. We were never going to win. If it had been Leeds versus Sunderland in the playoff final, Leeds would have wiped the floor with us.
That would have
maybe not battered us or anything, but I'd be very surprised if we'd have beaten Leeds at Wembley.
Then, what about Burnley at Wembley? So if you ever got Burnley at Wembley?
I was going to say, right, Burnley for me, this is a weird one, because Burnley, I think we would have been capable of beating. Mm-hmm. But my issue is, I think Trafford's a mint goalkeeper. I think the know-how they've got to...
The back four was good, wasn't it?
The know-how to regularly shut teams out and keep clean sheets on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And I think that we would have found it annoyingly difficult against Burnley. I just think Sheffield United and Burnley going forward, I don't think there's much between the two of them. Mm-hmm. But I think Burnley are streets ahead of Sheffield United defensively. Because if you look at, say, Sheffield United's centre-back pairing on Saturday, it was Jack Robinson and Ahmed Amahozic, I think his name is. Yeah. Burnley's across the season generally has been Maxime Esteve and CJ Egan-Riley.
Yeah.
Which one of the two is a better partnership? Egan-Riley and Esteve.
Yeah.
You know, and I think, and if you look at Jack Robinson, but whereas if you look at Sheffield United, so Burnley I think would have been. Here's the way I can describe it. I've said all along that I felt Sheffield United's points tally flatters them. Mm-hmm. Not saying that they're a bad team, because obviously not. Mm-hmm. But I've watched about probably 15 to 17, 19 of their games. Yeah. I've watched probably about a third of their games this season. And nearly all the time, apart from maybe 1 or 2 occasions where I thought they played well, they've generally had, the teams against them have had the better chances, not taken them, and Sheffield United have sneaked a 1-0 win. Now, the difference between that, when Burnley win 1-0, for example, is that they win 1-0 by controlling the game, by not allowing the opposition much, if any, chances at all. That, for me, isn't luck. That is based on really solid, groundbreaking defensive organisation. Whereas Sheffield United, I think, have been quite fortunate to win a lot of the games that they have done. And look, on before we start on air, look, me and Shaun are big fans of Chris Wilder. I'm not going to lie.
Oh, God.
I think he's let's just say I've got no problem with Sheffield United as a club. Actually, they're a pretty decent fan base. But I think sorry, Sheffield Wednesday. I know there's a few Sheffield Wednesday fans who like to watch us. They won't like me saying that. But so with Sheffield United, I think their fans have generally took the defeat quite well in Wembley. But I think with Chris Wilder, and he was quite complimentary about us after the game apparently, but I just think he's got this arrogance about him that he thinks he's better than he is. But back to the point though, like my point was, I think Sheffield United, although they obviously have some good players, Gustavo Hamer, Callum O'Hare, Vinny Souza, Sidney Peck, Raksaki, Tyrese Campbell, Kiefer Moore, Tom Cannon, they've got some good players, definitely. Harrison Burrows at left back I like, actually. But at the end of the day, I think Sheffield United are there to be got, and their weakness has been their centre-backs, because it's not a very quick partnership. And I thought, if we were going to face against Leeds, Burnley or Sheffield United, if we got the playoff final and I got asked, who would you want to play if it had to be one of the top 3?
He said Sheffield,
it would have been Sheffield United, because not saying we definitely would have
beat... You said that all the time, you did.
Yeah, Shaun probably was sick of hearing it by the end. But the point was, I think Sheffield United, obviously, I've got no doubt. Sheffield United, I mean, we won in the end. Sheffield United could very well easily have beaten Sunderland in the playoff final. Obviously, I think the game's quite tight between the two of them. But at least with Sheffield United, I felt we had the best chance of going up via the playoffs that way. So when it was Sheffield United who missed out on the automatics, I was quite happy about that, because not because I hate Sheffield United, but because I felt like I think this is our best opportunity to do it. And that's why I wanted Leeds and Burnley to get in the top 2.
Yeah.
And I think it's evidenced by the fact that Leeds and Burnley, again, finished on 100 points.
Unbelievable.
Which I said to Shaun, don't worry, the league this season won't be as good last year. The points tally will be lower. It won't be as many as it was last year. Well, it wasn't as many, it was more. So, I can't believe that. Yeah. I still feel the standard the year before was better
than this year.
But at the same time, I think, you've got to give credit to Leeds. Like, Leeds have been by far and away the best team in the league. And from an attacking perspective, they scored by far the most goals. They've got this blend of class and organisation and everything else.
They had the off days though as well, Michael, didn't they?
No, they didn't. Well, there was a point where they tried very hard not to finish in the top 2, didn't they? And I think with Leeds, it was the expectation of the club, isn't it? But and especially given a parachute payment club. Burnley, obviously Scott Parker. I think Scott Parker, at the time he won Manager of the Season, for me was fair, given the records he'd broken. I think now there's a case for arguing Labrise has done at least as good a job as him because of getting a non-parachute team, beating a parachute team from behind at Wembley to winning the playoffs and competing in the top 2 race. I would still probably edge towards Parker, just slightly deserving a bit more. But the point is, so when you go into the regular season, into the playoffs then, we obviously had Sheffield United, we had obviously us in 4th, and then obviously you had the teams below us battling out for the last few games. I was keeping a keen eye on the last few games of who was going to finish 5th and 6th.
Yeah.
Because, of course, we were going to see who we were going to get. And of course, the one team, I don't know what Shaun said, but the one team I said constantly, don't get Coventry, don't get Coventry, don't get Coventry. So, of course, when I found out at the very end, Sunderland playing Coventry, I was like, oh, for bleep's sake.
Well,
I don't know what you were like, though.
I was the same because when Bristol City, they were at home to Preston needed it to... Preston was still not safe with that, so they had to try and get something.
On the day they didn't, it turns out they didn't need anything, but going into the game they didn't know that, did they?
But obviously, leading up it, and I think I said, Bristol City will win this because they'll probably fancy their chances against us.
Bristol City's home record's pretty good as well.
I think they'll fancy their chances against us more than,
I fancy our chances more go against Bristol City than I would have Coventry. And that's no disrespect to Bristol City because they obviously earned the right to be in the playoffs. But I think if you look, the red card in the first leg between Bristol City and Sheffield United, it did skew it. But look how comfortable
Sheffield the game, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. But if you look how Sheffield United, put it this way, I wouldn't have been entirely surprised if Sheffield United hadn't got the playoff final if they had Coventry over 2 legs instead of Bristol City. It just meant we would have got Coventry in the final instead.
Can you imagine that?
That would have been carnage.
God.
That would have been. Imagine a Middlesbrough Sunderland playoff final. Remember 2 years ago it nearly happened.
Nearly happened, aye.
But you know what, right? So when we got Coventry, I was kind of thinking, I couldn't be bothered with it. But I did say it to Shaun in the group chat, and I said to me, Shaun and Dave were in a group chat together. I said it across to mates, social media. At some point, this Coventry hoodoo is going to come to an end. I said at the time, when it is, I don't know, but at some point it will end.
It did,
but I thought, but obviously, what a time to pick to break it.
Yeah, but I think
not many people would have seen it coming in these 2 games, mind.
When the playoffs were confirmed, like when we got Coventry, I said to you, I think they'll just shade it.
Yeah.
I think they'll just shade it, and that's not me being
you weren't
negative.
You weren't the only one. Though. I think a lot of people thought they
might
would.
have
I think for me, a lot of it depended on the first leg because if say Coventry had won the first leg, then you're going, it's going to be quite tricky to overturn. And I suppose going into the first, I
thought going into that game
when the leg at Coventry.
At the first leg, Ballard coming in for Meppen.
That was a big call at the time.
A massive call, and I think Meppen, to be fair, he hadn't
been quite as good the previous few games.
So Regis Labrie that was a big call, and obviously bringing Ballard in. But that night, I thought the back 4 and even the midfield was brilliant.
Ballard especially.
I thought we
shut them down.
We did shut them down. And it was sort of counter-attack football. Absorb the pressure and then hit them when they lose the ball. Hit them on the counter-attack. And I think that's how we got our first goal, wasn't it? Because I think it broke away, and I think Lafayette got the ball spare in the middle, didn't he?
Well, I remember it was Dan Neil got the ball originally.
Yeah,
and then managed to get out of a tight situation, put it through to Lafayette. And you've got to say that. And Lafayette, I've said, I've been someone who before the playoffs had been a bit disappointed with Lafayette with the hype that had come around him. Yeah. To be fair to him, he's delivered and stepped up in these games because he's had a big hand in pretty much all of the goals that we've scored. So if you look at Lafayette, if you look at that through ball he puts towards Isidore, that's just the extra
brilliant.
That's the
quality, isn't it?
That's the quality that we were paying all the wages for.
Exactly.
I'm pretty sure that when we signed him on loan, there was a lot of talk about Lafayette we were paying for pretty much all of his wages, and it was culminating in like we were paying something like £1.7 million for 6 months.
Yeah,
so if
yeah.
you look at it, it was a very expensive loan fee, but in the end,
But it's worked
helped us,
out.
It's helped us go.
And he's been
and now he's our player.
His bit of quality, I think, has probably helped us. You look at we'll come in a bit, but you look at that pass he played for Isidore. Isidore done well, mind as well, because he got to stay.
Absolutely.
He's calm and he was composed and he hit it.
That's a mental situation, that, because he's probably had too much time to think about what he's going to do. Yeah,
Hadn't scored for a while.
But you look at so Lafay obviously assisted the first goal, had a big hand in the winner that Mayenda scored, because obviously he forced Van Elwick to make the mistake. Put the corner in for Ballard, for big deck chair Ballard.
I was going to come to that in a second.
Well, but obviously then in the final he had a big hand in sort of involved in the build up to Mayenda's goal. But as far as the first leg away at Coventry was concerned, I think that the only time we really switched off defensively was Rodoni's goal.
And that was
and at the time
I was disappointed with that. I was disappointed.
But I did think at the time though, I thought, right, okay, it's 1-1 away from home. You thought, right, fine, okay, fair enough. But yeah, Isidore quickly did really well for the finish, and obviously that was his first goal, I think, since Leeds. So obviously it was a big thing on his shoulders, really. But either way, but that was a really good finish. To be fair, Sunderland recovered really well from the Rodoni goal, though, and this is where we kept on saying, the phrase "till the end," where you keep staying till the end and keep switching on till the end. And obviously, then of course, I was thinking right before Mayenda scored, I think, right, I'll take a draw back at the Stadium of Light. Give us a draw. But then obviously, Lafay forces Van Elwick to make the mistake. And of course, Mayenda's going through one-on-one pretty much. And then he rounds Ben Wilson and scores it. I don't know where you were when watching, but I was in Sheepfolds across from the stadium.
I were watching it. I watched it in the house, I think.
We were watching it in there. And Sheepfolds, we were just
diving all over.
We were just ecstatic when he scored, because we just thought, oh my God, we've actually beaten Coventry away, because we hadn't beaten them away for 40 years, had we?
Do you think, Michael Lowe? Do you think obviously that victory was brilliant? It gave us a slight lead going into the second leg.
I think I know what you're going to say.
Do you think that was
possibly to our detriment to a bit in the second leg?
Yeah, I think Nick Barnes touched up on this. I can't remember where he said this. I haven't spoken to Nick for a while, but I think he alluded to that, like literally. That could have been a sort of downside of winning that first leg.
It sort of caused us to be less adventurous to a degree.
Yes, at home, packed house, unbelievable atmosphere. You know what I mean? What you want is to like sort of get the fans straight behind the players. And I didn't think the players give us quite a lot of.
Do you think?
Shout about,
how do you think we would have approached it then if we say drew 1-1 instead of winning the first leg?
I don't know, because when we won the game 2-1. I said to all my mates, I had a feeling that we're going to try and win the game 0-0. That's what I thought we was going to try and do, and I think that's what these tactics were. They basically shut them down, and then hit them on the counter, absorb the pressure, and try and just nick a goal. But if we could win the game 0-0, which I think is a little bit negative, then we'll get through.
It's all right. We won it 1-1. So it's fine.
But you can get what I mean, can you?
Yeah, I get it. I think I did say before the second leg that winning the first leg was a brilliant result, and it was one that I never saw coming. And I don't think a lot of people really saw coming, to be totally honest. Because if you really look at it, like away at Coventry, who would have foreseen us winning there? And I was there a couple of months ago when we lost 3-0 there, and we got outran and outfought and battered that day.
But we weren't even trying that day, mate. You could see the players weren't even bothered, man.
As someone who obviously watched both games, like it was chalk and cheese. It was chalk and cheese. And if you head to the Breeze, he got a lot of, I think the credit he deserves there, because he recognised that you can't just go and try and out football Coventry, because otherwise
they're a good footballing team, very good football.
Well, especially against us, there was every chance it wasn't going to go well. So we thought, right, okay then, let's make sure we're solid. Let's make sure that we restrict them very well. And Coventry apparently struggle when teams do that to them. So, but yeah, obviously going at the second leg, I didn't want us to set up just defending for the draw. Because obviously, although a draw was good enough, I was thinking, no, I still want to try and win the game.
Exactly, because
the problem is, because all it does is that it takes one player switching off, one mistake, one deflection, one wonder strike, and then your game plan's out the window.
That's what happened.
And to be fair, mate, I think there's been obviously a lot of talk around the two legs that Sunderland were quite lucky to get through. I disagree with the first leg, because I think the first leg we earned that look. We were very good.
We played the style of game, didn't we?
Our display was excellent that night. Yeah. The second leg, I would probably argue we did get fortunate.
We was lucky, mate. Let's be honest. We was lucky there. But we maybe earned that little bit of luck because we were winning in the first leg. We earned that little bit of luck, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. But I mean, if you look at it, Sakamoto had a great chance in the first half. Obviously, you had the goal. Mason Clark scored it. Jack Rodoni, I think, had a good chance from from the left hand side of the goal in the first half. The big one was Haji Wright's header at the end of normal time, which if he scores that, then we're not sitting here talking about a playoff win, are we? But that's how. But playoff games are often about fine margins. And to be fair, in the second leg, I thought Coventry actually played pretty well. But I think one thing that I did notice,
I thought they were brilliant, Coventry. I thought I'm not going to say because there's this rivalry between us and Coventry, which I don't really. It stems back in 1970.
I don't care about
1979. I think it was when Jimmy Hill was
did
it
what he did.
I think the teams
Delayed the kick-off.
they delayed the kick-off, and then the other games are finished, and then Coventry they just need to draw with this other team. I can't remember who it was, and then it would send something down. But to me, it's all. Yeah, I
wasn't bothered about that.
I mean, we're not going to be bothered because we want, our son supporters back then, but obviously maybe our uncles and our relatives
I mean,
were.
older generations,
So obviously
they
that's
would
the
have
reason
recognised it.
it.
I think because I thought Coventry did onto the second leg though. I think Coventry, for me, the biggest hurdle was Coventry, and I said that to you throughout the whole playoffs. I thought if we get past Coventry, I think we'll win it. But the point.
So do you think Coventry's a better team than Sheffield United?
Obviously, it's a weird one. I think that no, but obviously the hurdle thing is because of our hurdle against Coventry. If that makes sense. Whereas
because I think
Coventry played better against us than Sheffield United did, man.
I think so as well.
So I think, obviously, look, the nerves were when Mason Clark scored to level the tie at 2-2, and I'm thinking. That's what happens if you sit back all game and you don't offer much going.
I was going.
Yeah, I was. I'm not going to lie. I mean, obviously, look, this sounds really ridiculous in hindsight now. I was fuming with Lebris that night. I'm not going to lie because I felt like he was being quite reactive with not changing things and asking for it and so on. But to be fair, and one thing I'll give him credit for here, actually, to be fair, is that in extra time. In the first 10 minutes of extra time, I'll say there's not much in it. Although we did have a great chance when I think Hume puts the ball across the box and then it falls to Mundell and is blocked either on the line or close to the line in the first half of extra time.
Yeah.
Oh, no, sorry, second half extra time. Start the second half.
Yeah.
But anyway, no. But having said that, I think one of the biggest things I was impressed with was that you could tell by the end in extra time, Coventry's legs had gone. And this is one of the biggest things that I was saying. This is the byproduct of resting, rotating players, making sure we're fresh for the playoffs. Because remember, Coventry didn't have that luxury. They had to keep plugging away, play every game, because they had to secure playoffs. By that point, I think the amount of football had just caught up with them.
I think watching that game, the 90 minutes and the second leg at the same night, when it come to the 90 minutes, I said to the guy sitting behind us who was on the Black Cats bar, he says, "Do you know what?" He went, "These have been better than us in both the games." I says, "Well, I'd agree with you. I think they probably have." And I went, "But you know what? He's a good way now for the manager, the coach,
exactly.
Regis Lebris to look at it and say, look, this hasn't been working. Surely Coventry's going to start timing at some point in this
Which
game."
I think they did, yeah.
And
they had to put a lot of effort into the second leg to get level.
In the first half, they still were really good, I thought. But then in the second half of the extra time, I said to the guy next to us, I went, "These are starting to feel this game now," and they just start to drift off and drift back. And I went, we might get a chance here. We might get a chance in this game.
Do you know what? And then do you know
what? Honestly,
so okay, and obviously. Then we got to talk about, what turns out the second biggest moment in the playoffs.
Oh, God.
But at the time, it was a gargantuan. Well, it is still a gargantuan moment. I remember right before we got the corner where we scored from. I think Coventry had a corner about a minute before that, and I was thinking, "Oh no, this is either going to lose this or it's going to go to penalties." And had it gone to penalties, I probably would have said, "No, we're not going to go through here."
Jalzi said the exact same thing. I was watching a video Jalzi and Steve, great YouTubers as well.
They're hilarious. I love
lovely
them.
lads. And Jalzi said the same thing as me. Do you know when Enzo Lefebvre picked the ball up? I was looking at the time. I was going, "What's he doing?" It was taking forever to put it down. And I was thinking, look at the referee's going to end up blowing his whistle out. He's not even going to have time to take the corner. I want to just get in there and get Ballard in there.
Clearly, Enzo Lefebvre says, "Screw you, Shaun Middleton." Because I know what I'm on about.
So we couldn't see.
Were you confident? Oh yeah, obviously because it was my end of the stadium. How did you feel in the build-up to that corner, right as he was about to take it? Did you think that we were going to do anything, or did you think, it's going to be penalties, and from there it's a lottery? I
went, surely we can't score here. I mean, if we score here, the stadium is going to absolutely
erupt.
The roof is going to come off if we score here. I said, the bloke behind us, I went, "Get the ball in the box." What's he doing? He's tapping it. Just
put the ball box,
down, put the ball down, and just cross it in that area, and hopefully Ballard or one of them can put something on it.
Get his deck chair impression again. You know what? To be fair, right? I think, right before then, I was thinking, right, it's now or nothing. You got to go and do something. To be fair,
I was even saying, I'm sure I just get packed up just for this corner because I knew it would be the last throw of the dice, the last kick of the game. Just get him up there and try and just nick a goal.
Do you know what would have happened though? We would have missed it would have missed all the Sunderland players. Coventry would have broken score and
scored.
Yeah, but it's just to be classic Sunderland, wouldn't it? Shaun's going, that's why I didn't go forward. Oh my god!
But anyway,
but let's talk about
talks
it.
for the goal.
Right, okay. So obviously Enzo Lefebvre has the corner on the left hand side.
Yeah.
The ball, to be fair, a lot of the corners that night had actually been pretty shocking.
Yeah, been poor,
but to be fair, the ball, as it comes in, Ballard gets ahead of his man. I think it was at Liam Kitching. I think it was. I can't remember who it was that lost him. But anyway, Ballard does the jump he made is superhuman. I don't know how. I don't believe he managed to. He's like hunching while connecting with the ball at the same time.
Try and get the accuracy on the header, wasn't it?
Yeah,
that's why his style was like that.
Yeah, I do not understand how he managed to do that. But the euphoric moment, obviously, when I saw that the ball was for one split second before everyone went celebrating, I thought, oh, that's gone out wide. It's a goal kick. But of course, you see the ball bouncing off the underside of the bar. Yeah,
hit the floor and then bounce up again and hit the net. And once it hit the net, you just
once it did, honestly, we were going. We were going absolutely mental.
I celebrated with the guy, the Black Cat's got the manager. I was screaming in, diving all over, and the people coming through the doors. I started celebrating with them. I started celebrating with these two guys to the right. It was just bodies everywhere.
Oh, it was limit. So fair. Right, here's a question then in that regard. I've seen people describe that as the best moment in the Stadium of Light history.
Do you know what, Michael? It's got to be.
It's definitely up there, but is it the best, do you think?
Michael, there's been many moments. I mean, you see just one moment. Defoe's volley.
I would say
Stephen Fletcher's third goal against Newcastle. That was special.
I would say Defoe's goal against Chelsea under Big Sam.
That was huge.
That was huge.
That was absolutely massive.
I wouldn't go as far to say that it was.
Yedlin's cross.
I wouldn't go as far to say for me that was the best moment, Ballard's goal. But it was very significant. It's definitely the best moment at the Stadium Light since probably that Chelsea game.
But when the ball goes in, and this went on for about, I dare say it, when the players, the euphoria, the passion, it was just, the players jumping, circling jumping in the crowd. O'Neill jumping in.
Neil was jumping and hugging the crowd as well.
All that went on
everyone was jumping on
about
top of
5 minutes, didn't it?
Yeah, he did.
So you had all the noise, all the celebrations, and you could look over at Lampard, you can see that smug B as well. Because he was, I used to like Frank Lampard, but I think just the way...
I don't mind him, but yeah. He's not popular.
I think it's just any person who goes against Sunderland, I just have a instant dislike.
Sorry, Sky Sports News is on next to us. They've just said Championship, Sunderland depend to offer Ray Muddle a new contract. That's wrong, guys. We're in the Premier League. For now, anyway. But yeah, no, to be fair, for me, though, that is definitely the euphoria coming out of the stadium at that moment. Because before that second leg, I felt sick with anxiety. Because I was thinking, because in my head it was, get past these, I think we do it.
This one guy, sorry mate, I don't want to talk over us because sometimes people see we're talking over.
I do that to Shaun all the time.
That's all right. But there was this one guy and he summed the game up perfectly at the end of the game. He went, do you know what? He went, that was absolute 120 minutes of pure torture. He went, I can't have gone through that again at Wembley. He went, I would have preferred, this is what he said, I would have preferred to get beat and gone through that. Just to not have to go through it again. I felt your pain. I went, that was torture. And I could understand what he meant at the time. It was just pure. I was like this. I was rocking. I was like...
It's tension, it's anxiety, it's nerves. But it's everything heightened to 100-fold, isn't it?
It's not good for you all to ticker like as well.
No. Well, do you know what? I said after the two Coventry games, I felt those two games aged me about 5 years watching the two of them. But you've got to bear in mind that Coventry aren't a bad team either, and that was always going to be... It was always going to be a very tight, edgy sort of game. But obviously, my heart rate would have preferred we didn't sit back and not offer as much going forward. But look, you've got to be fair though, like saying that. Look, if we want to talk about momentum, obviously going to the playoffs, I would rather have had momentum. Yeah. Obviously now it doesn't matter, but I would have wanted to have momentum going into them. But if you're talking about momentum, the other side of it, 88th minute winner in the first leg, and then 122nd minute aggregate winner in the second leg. If that's not building momentum and character, what is?
But people can see you're looking at things, right? But all good teams, Real Madrid. I'm going for something. Real Madrid when they beat Man City 2 years ago when they won the Champions League, Man City absolutely battered Real Madrid in that second leg, battered them, but they couldn't put the ball in it. But then Real Madrid won on penalties. And then that good teams find a way. Character. That's it. And Real Madrid found a way, and they went out to win the tournament. It's like Sunderland, people see, Coventry was better than Sunderland in over the 2 legs. They probably were, but sometimes the better team doesn't win. And sometimes it comes down to, as Mike says, character. And sometimes character can overrule a better side or thing. And at the end of the day, it's a scoreline. And that scoreline, I'll tell you, that we went through and won that game. So we were the better team.
Yeah.
We were the better team.
Yeah, and you got to remember mentally as well, it was a massive hoodoo because we'd beaten, because every time we played Coventry before then, they always seemed to turn it to Real Madrid and we turned it to Accrington Stanley. But no disrespect, Accrington, but that's how honestly it felt like every time. And I remember thinking when we got I remember after we drew 2-2 here in the November game.
Yeah.
I wasn't at it actually, but I did manage to sneakily watch it. And I put up a podcast that asked for a 3-word review.
Yeah.
And my words were hate playing Coventry because I was sick of not beating them all the time. But you know what, to be fair though, and I think I do feel, look, don't as well. I don't have the animosity towards Coventry that a lot of Sunderland fans do. I just see them as another game.
Because obviously we weren't born with the time.
Yeah, obviously I know I understand why a lot of Sunderland fans do.
Yeah.
There's clubs that I hate more than Coventry, and Shaun knows who they are. But but you know what, Coventry, I think, and I messaged Matt SB, who's a fantastic Coventry lad. He's a YouTuber who's got nearly 100k views. Like, you know, obviously we were talking about it, and there's a few Coventry fans I speak to. A number of them after the game said, "Look, I'm absolutely gutted, but I wish you'd look at Wembley." And obviously we'll get onto Wembley in a minute, but you know, that moment felt, especially now, it felt very significant, that Ballard goal. And I said at the time, although the moment is great, I'm desperate for it to count towards promotion. Because if we lost the final, that moment doesn't mean anywhere near as much to me.
Exactly. But
although in the moment in itself is great, it's like how great it is for me depends if we win the final or not. But no, as far as when we got past Coventry, I said to Shaun, right, if I'm going to be consistent, I said if we get past Coventry, we're going to do it. We're going to win the playoffs. And just to clarify, because Shaun knows what I'm going to say, I'm going to blow smoke up my own backside here. But I said Sunderland's last 4 playoff campaigns, including this one, I had a gut feeling going into every one of them whether we would go up. And every single time I've been right. I said when we had Lee Johnson in the lockdown season, we wouldn't go up. I said when we had Lord Voldemort in charge of us during the 21-22 season with Alex Neil, I said we would go up. I said when we had Shaun's favourite boss, Tony Mowbray, I said when we had Ahmad and all that, we wouldn't do it just because of the amount of injuries we had. I thought that would catch up with us. You know, and we weren't expected to. I said we wouldn't do it. And then going into these playoffs, I said, get past Coventry, we will win the playoffs. So just listen to me then.
Just touching up on that game, obviously, because a lot of people's been asking where I've been. I've been working, honestly. Like,
he's been working a lot of hours.
I'm working every Saturdays. And obviously that night, I did want to come back to do the fans' reactions, and I was.
Shaun, just to clarify, guys, Shaun was actually trying to get organised for interviews as well.
Yeah, so for the fans' reactions on the company, the second leg. And when it went extra time, I was thinking I'm going to have to get home. I'm going to have to get home. Obviously, I wanted to do the interviews, and I think it was what time did we get up the ground? I can't remember the time.
Well, it was like 11:15 or something.
I was thinking by the time I got in the house, it was literally 12:15. If I'd done the interviews, I probably wouldn't have gotten out.
But you had work early the next morning, didn't you?
2:00 in the morning, and I really wanted to do the fans' reactions on that night. And I was gutted. I was over the moon when we went through, but I took the mics, I took the camera work, everything to do it that night, and unfortunately I couldn't do it. Yeah, I know it wasn't. But you know, the scenes afterwards, Michael, even after the full-time whistle, the players.
Well, I saw you briefly after the game.
I sang you at the end of the game, like half an hour after, but. It was brilliant. I mean, the fans run on the pitch. I mean, whether you like it or not. I mean, sometimes the fans can just get a bit too excited, and run on the pitch probably wasn't the best thing to do. But in moments like that, it can happen. But I think it was just unbelievable moments at the end when the players was standing there singing with the fans. I thought it was just, Michael, it was brilliant.
It was,
you know, it set us up nicely.
No, it absolutely did. And I think funny enough, there was a Sheffield United fan. If you listen to What the Folks pod, I mention them quite a lot, but it's a fantastic podcast for Sunderland. But there's the lad called Ollie from the Sheffield United Way who was on to preview the final, and he said that he was nervous because he wasn't as nervous watching the game because he didn't think that the Sheffield United. He thought Sheffield United would be all right in the final, but then said he was worried the minute Ballard's header went in because he thought, oh no, God crap, these are on a high here, and I thought that high should carry us hopefully through to the final and be able to give us a chance of winning it. But it's definitely up there for one of the best moments at stadium, because of the significance of the game and and because of how it was against Coventry, who a lot of Sunderland fans obviously don't like and detest. But you know, by the end, when coming out of the ground,
oh God,
we were just in absolute jubilant mood. Like even I was saying, Shaun can back us up. When I was speaking to Shaun coming out of it, I was like a kid who discovered a pack of his favourite sweets or something.
I lost my voice totally.
Oh, my voice had gone as well.
I lost my voice.
Honestly,
totally.
like I literally the scenes were just absolutely mad. And it turns out, thankfully, they weren't even the best scenes of the playoffs now. Because thankfully we topped it in a minute. But the Coventry game was absolutely massive in that regard. And obviously from that point we knew we had Sheffield United. But obviously from like I said, from that red card that Rob Dickey got at the end of the first half of the first leg, it was always going to be Sheffield United in the final.
Of course it was.
We had got a bit of luck over the 2 legs, but Coventry aren't a bad team. Absolutely not a bad team. So then we move on to the final, which is I was quite jubilant. I don't know about you, but for about probably 4 or 5 days afterwards, I was buzzing with getting past Coventry and getting to the final, and thought that is, I was like, okay, right, we've got a chance here. And then the start of the week happens at the bottom, going, oh no, I'm bricking it again.
You got nervous when you the build up,
and I was joking, going, why couldn't we have just got 101 points and just made sure we avoided all of this?
The playoffs.
But they always say that if you win them, they're the best way to get promoted. So
it is. I mean, to win at Wembley is not a better feeling. To lose at Wembley, there's not a worse feeling, Michael. And like to see, we've experienced the Wickham game. 3 years ago when we won, it was absolutely brilliant. It was an unforgettable feeling. And then just
and on the other end of the scale, Charlton 6 years ago.
Oh God, that was,
that was just so. For Sheffield United fans, if there's any of them watching this, we know how you feel. We've been there before. It's horrible. But on to the final, right? I think there was me in mine, Dave, and Shaun's group chat. Shaun was the one that was probably not as optimistic as me and Dave were.
I was 50-50, wasn't it, to be fair? I was 50.
You had good reason to be fair. I did say that the game is on, I did say constantly, this doesn't mean we will beat them, but my gut says we will beat them, because I feel like Sheffield United are there. Sheffield United, I mean, look, obviously we were huge underdogs, I think, going into the game. Sheffield United were obviously massive favourites because of probably the parachute payments and where they finished in the league, but I'd always said the points gap. Oh, sorry. My sleep patterns.
I'm just bored. It's not me. It's not me.
No, it's me, boring Shaun. To be honest, my sleep pattern since Wembley's been all over the place. I've been that buzzing. But anyway, But I did say that Sheffield United, I think, finished 14 points ahead of Sunderland in the end. But I have always said, because Sunderland jacked in the last 6 games, that points gap's very misleading.
Definitely.
I don't think there's anything in the tie at all.
As the people take no notice of the gap between us and Sheffield United, because we switched off. As soon as we confirmed the playoffs, we even registered the break.
And Sheffield United still had top 2 to fight for at that stage as well.
Yes, they were trying to get the top 2. We could rest our players. We could, not rush people back. So we effectively could, we had that advantage, I thought, over the other teams in the playoffs.
Yeah, exactly.
You know
and that in the end against Coventry, I think, told the difference in the extra time in the second leg. But
Michael, obviously, because this video's we've been going on a while now.
Yeah, let's get to the final.
So sorry if we went on a while and I haven't done a video for.
I'm enjoying this.
No, I've enjoyed it.
But thank you to everyone who does watch, by the way. It means a lot that people seem to like that. And for Joanne particularly, because I know you like watching us. So yeah.
I just want to say as well, like for the people who's been asking where I am, me and Michael next season 100%, 1,000,000% to be back.
Yeah.
I'll be doing the aftermath. Because
I think it'd be worth, and we even talked about the idea of doing videos like this across the summer if something big happens.
We're going to do 100%.
Talk about Thomas Tuchel's England instead of Gareth Southgate.
We could.
Could do a couple of England friendlies.
A lot of people say you're still doing it now. Yes, I'm definitely doing it. I'll try to do the Coventry game the second night. I went to Wembley, and as I say, I took the mics, I took the camera work, everything. But I was that tired off the Friday night. I didn't get much sleep.
Basically, he was so buzzing he wouldn't have been able to get his thoughts out properly.
I was dead on my feet, and I really wanted to do fans' reactions. And Peter Snowball, that I trained with in the gym, Pedro Fitness, he was saying, "Oh, you missed out on a big thing. They're not doing the interviews down Wembley."
But at the end of the day, I think if you
I was gutted.
You'll get big videos in the Premier League, though. It's a big.
So I'm saying, 1,000,000%. I'll be back in the Premier League. I will try to get as many games as I can. I mean, we've got to think in the Premier League there'll be a lot of games on a Sunday now, which will definitely suit me because
there'll be someone like Monday night as well, Friday night.
If I'm working on this on a Saturday, then I'm thinking this Sunday. Even if I'm working on a Saturday now and it kicks off at 3, I'm still going to make that effort to get to the games now. Yeah. I mean, because I've always wanted to do the fans' reactions in the Premier League, and now I've got the chance to do them.
If you actually think about it, this whole thing, whether it's Fan TV or here, both channels started in League One.
Yeah.
And now we've
That's
gone
what
up,
I'm saying, to the
and we've
thingy.
gone back up to our level.
I've
really,
been doing
where-
this, well, 6 years. You've been doing about 7 or 8, haven't you? Your own channel now, I think it's
Well,
been.
my own channel since about 2015, so nearly
So
10.
there you go.
Nearly 10 years.
So you've been doing it 10 years.
Yeah, but if you look across like this channel or Fan TV, or when me and Shaun started doing videos together, that was probably about. That was 6 years ago.
No, so I'm saying,
I remember.
first started.
Yeah,
I think
so-
you and Jamsani actually were the ones who got me into doing
Really?
YouTubes. Yeah.
That means a lot to hear
You
that.
and Jamsani were when you were sent.
The YouTuber called Alt Ending, who does like the tactical stuff after games, and does the production quality is great that he does. But anyway, he said me and Jamsani got him into doing it as well. So good. If I've helped,
honestly,
if we've helped all of that, then it's a good thing. But you know what? But on to the final.
Yeah.
Thankfully, I was
Fine.
thankfully I was able to get Jamsani a ticket for the final. Shout out to Richard Jenks, by the way, Dan and Andrew's dad, because you were very helpful in getting Joel his ticket, so it's much appreciated. I don't think he's watching this, but if he is, then it's appreciated. If Dan and Andrew are watching this, show this to your dad. Right, the final. How did you feel going into it?
Right. Well, I didn't have a drink for nearly 5 years, so I thought I'm just going to do something different here. I want to buy some bottles of beer, and I actually had a couple of bottles as well leading up to the game to try and calm my nerves a little bit. And I was on Wembley Way. I put some bottles of beer in a bag, and the police stopped us, so we had to go. We had to go round the other way. And
Was this at Trafalgar Square on the day?
No, this is on the actual day,
okay.
the Wembley Way. So I had a few bottles of beer. I enjoyed them actually, but then I got some food, which was an absolute fortune. But then the teams come out, and I seen the teams, and I think was the two changes making on the teams for that day. I think
If you give me
Roberts dropped out, didn't he? And there was the.
And I think
someone else.
If you give me just 10 seconds, I'll be able to get the team.
Tell the teams.
But no, I think my emotions going into the game were kind of. I was reasonably confident, without being overly confident. Right, so that was the team. So the team that started was Patterson, Hume, Ballard, O'Nine. Obviously, O'Nine went off after 8 minutes. Sirkin. Then it was Rigg, Neil, Bellingham, Mundell, Lafay, and Mayenda. Obviously, Lafay wasn't up front with Mayenda. I'm looking at the BBC Sport match report for anyone who's wondering.
Yeah.
But if you look at it, so you had like Roberts not playing, you had Rigg starting on the right. I'm boring myself now. Goodness me. No, I really need to get some sleep tonight. But anyway, then obviously Isidore wasn't playing either. But so I think I was my emotions going into the game was I was cautiously optimistic. That's the best way.
Yeah.
I was cautiously optimistic. I said I had a gut feeling it was our time that we were going to do it. And Dave Lawrence from What the Falcon, obviously in our group chat, he was saying he was quite reasonably confident as well. And obviously Shaun was probably a bit apprehensive over it, but. At the end of the day, I think a lot of people had the same sort of feeling that it was going to be our occasion.
And what was your feelings about VAR? Obviously, we're going to come to that. What was your feelings about VAR being, obviously, at Wembley when we're going to have the use of
it's the second time we've had it, because we had it in the Wickham game. There just wasn't
but
any
there was
no big incidents then.
No. I was thinking myself, honestly, when VAR was announced, I was thinking, oh God, this is not going to come back in there.
Do you mean Luke O'Nine wrestling people on the ground?
Come back and pulling shirts. This is not going to come back and bite us. But
I remember that. Do you know when O'Nine went? I mean, obviously, it was gutting that O'Nine went off, but when he went off, I jokingly said to Jamsani above me, I said to me mates, like, well, at least he's not going to wrestle people at the ground and cost us a potential penalty now.
Aye.
But yeah, with VAR, look, as everyone knows, I don't like Chris Wilder. I can't stand the Yorkshire. See you next Tuesday. But I did agree with him when he said, and I do think it's a fair argument, that it's not right that you don't have VAR all season long, and then in the biggest game of the season it's there. But having said that, look, if we're talking about how the game started, I'd be keen to see what you think. I think in the first half, or at least certainly up until the disallowed VAR goal, I don't think Sheffield United were particularly good, but at the same time, I thought Sunderland were really poor.
Yeah, we were.
I don't think we could get to grips with it whatsoever. And I think that Sheffield United used their physicality, their height, their experience, I think Campbell was actually a nightmare to deal with up front.
Yeah, he was.
Kiefer Moore aerially was really
strength.
Exactly. And we've got to give credit Patterson here. That save he made from Kiefer Moore in the first minute was
absolutely outstanding. It was outstanding.
And obviously in the second half he made a crucial one from Andre Brooks,
with his legs,
1-0 still. So that was. But onto the first half. Yeah, I mean, I think the first 35 minutes. We couldn't get the grip with it, could we?
No, we couldn't. We couldn't get the grip with it. Like you see, that it was a mistake early doors by was it? Who gave the ball? Was it Meppen, I think? No, it wasn't Meppen because it was somebody. It might have been Traherne. I can't remember what it was. Well, we lost the ball and the ball got crossed in, and Kiefer Moore obviously.
He's obviously got a massive.
He rose early. He got a really good connection, and there was an excellent head. He couldn't have done any more. And Patterson, one hand save was just outstanding. Was outstanding. Yeah. But I think from that resultant cross, that's when O'Neill, and I think he clashed with Kiefer Moore or somebody, and that's when he pulled his. That's when he's. popped his shoulder, I think, wasn't it?
I know, and I felt for him. I
know.
really did feel for him because he's had that a few times, hasn't he?
Yeah.
And then Trust Real night to celebrate with one arm in a sling. Luke, don't change. But when that went off, and then obviously Meffam came on, I thought, right, okay, then that's not ideal because centre back is where you want the rhythm and the cohesion. The
Nine's got to bring the ball up, isn't he?
Yeah, I think he is as well. I think in that respect, technically, he's actually a bit underrated. But but when Meffam came on, I thought that it took a while for Meffam and Ballot to get to grips with playing alongside each other.
Good point.
But to be fair, the goal that we conceded weirdly came from us going forward because obviously
it was our corner.
Yeah, it was a counter attack.
It was a counter attack, but what made me mad about that goal, I was watching it back 3 or 4 times, and you could see the run from Campbell. He was running through, but I was thinking, who's tracking him?
I know.
And the fear was the one that was supposed to be, but I think he just switched up because he didn't even realise he was there. But there should have been somebody else.
I know what you mean.
Three of the players went over to. Who had the ball?
Gustavo Hamer.
Hamer, and he played the ball inside to Campbell, didn't he? And then Campbell chipped it over.
Yeah, I mean, from Sheffield United's point of view, it's a real. I mean, obviously, we can say it now without any sort of regret or anything. Like, no, from Sheffield United's point of view, it was a cracking counter-attacking goal. I was fuming that Sunderland got counted on and conceded from our corner because.
That was a bit disappointing.
But apparently, Sheffield United are, from what I heard, they're better when teams have a go at them and leave space in behind.
Yeah.
But obviously, when that happened, I thought, oh no, this is going to play into their hands. This. But then obviously we get to the big moment, probably the moment that rocked Sheffield United and the moment that probably gave us a bit more impetus, which was the disallowed Harrison Burrows goal. Now, what's your thoughts on that? It's a huge moment.
This was absolutely huge, massive, because if I said the guy next, the guy next to us, I went 1-0. I could see his coming back. Yeah, definitely. If that goal had stood,
2-0 is a different.
It was going to be really, really hard, and I think maybe that was a little bit of. I was like thinking that was the drive for the players to think, no, this is a bit of a look. Maybe
a reprieve,
and this should give the players a lift. We're getting a huge lifeline, a huge lifeline. But watching it back on the replays after the game, this, that, and the other. He was the referee announced it. He was in line of the goalkeeper's thing, so it did have he was impacting the sight of the vision of the goalkeeper.
Vinny Souza was what's the word I'm looking for? Blocking Patterson's line of vision.
So then the VAR was right, and that's why it didn't stand. And I know there's a lot of Sheffield United fans, was upset about it, but it was the letters of the law. It's right.
I mean, I suppose to defend Sheffield United fans, we probably would have been upset if it was.
I would have been well angry, but
you're right. I mean, look, in the letter of the law with VAR, when it's only till probably yesterday I think I watched it back for the first time.
Yeah.
And if you look at it, you go, right, okay, if Patterson's vision is blocked. That is interfering with play, basically, even if he doesn't touch the ball. Which I'm still not convinced by as a rule generally, but as far as the rules are applied, that was accurate. It was correct. But what it did do, and you are right, was give Sunderland this sort of impetus and go, right, we got away with one. We've got away with it. Right, let's raise our game a bit. I felt like from that point on until probably 60 minutes or so, I felt Sunderland started to improve, but didn't do as much as what I could have done, because I don't rate Sheffield United's back line. It's certainly like Robinson and Hozic. It's not a quick partnership, and I was thinking, right, get Mundell at them, get Mayenda at them, obviously get Rigg at them, but then later get Roberts at them, and so on. Obviously, half time comes and goes, and then we get to the second half. Obviously, the second half starts, and then we've got to mention the big moment of the second half. But while it was still 1-0. Was again another big Patterson save, which was when the ball goes forward, it goes to Andre Brooks, and Sirkin just missed him.
Sirkin was poor in that with that mind.
Patterson bailed
was
Sirkin
really
out
poor.
There. I mean, obviously, I'm a big fan of Dennis Sirkin.
Yeah, I thought he was poor hard game, Sirkin. Michael,
I think he got better on.
Later on,
last 20 minutes, I thought he was all right. But I think obviously.
What's he doing now? The ball, he should just whack it clear. He's like trying to stand up.
I know he tried to be quite fancy with it, didn't he? Yeah.
So
we obviously
deal with it. Deal with it.
Exactly. We obviously did get fortunate in the sense that didn't count for anything in the end. But Patterson, to be fair, that reminded it was reminiscent to me. Obviously, it was a different angle and everything. The way the ball fell to him was a slightly different thing. But it reminded me of his save against Wickham when Sam Vokes had that one-on-one chance when Bailey Wright jumps for a header, mistimes it, and then Vokes is in behind him. So Patterson's been saving. That's a couple of games in a Wembley.
He made 2 huge saves, to be fair.
Yeah, in this game, obviously Kiefer Moore's the kid from Kiefer Moore and then Andre Brooks.
Yeah,
the save from them two.
And obviously keeps that 1-0 still. So we're still in the game.
By the end of the game, that proved to be a very pivotal moment. So I've got to give credit to Lebris for this, mind. I've been very critical of him from
with the subs and that, not being
subs
proactive.
yeah, but this game, I thought he got them bang on the money.
He did.
Bang on the money.
Roberts.
So one of the first ones, he got Rig off and brought Roberts on.
Yeah.
And I think he knew that with Roberts, because apparently Roberts had been playing, Roberts I thought was really poor against Coventry in the second leg, but it looked like he'd been playing with a calf problem or playing with. So obviously, of course, he wasn't. If that's the case, he's not able to play at his full potential or full ability. But when Roberts came on, I thought straight away we looked more dynamic.
Yeah.
So I think then you had, Dan Neil came off for Isidore, and there was one more sub, and there was Mundell off for Watson.
Yeah.
And straight away from that point, once those subs were made, I thought we started to look more energetic, more dynamic. We started to get forward much. And here's one. Sheffield United for me had spells of being on top in the first half. But I felt in the spells when Sunderland were on top, we looked more dangerous.
More dangerous than them, yeah.
Yes. So obviously
I agree.
But obviously, I know I was pretty confident going into the game, cautiously optimistic that we would win. Right before we ended scored, when we had like 15 minutes to go, I was a bit less so, and I was like, oh no.
But Michael, obviously, the goal, we'll talk about the goal.
Yeah,
I thought I thought it was brilliant by, it was Watson who...
It was Watson, then Lafay, then Roberts, then Mayenda.
Yeah, that's the way it went. So Roberts had it, he just flicked it to Lafay. Lafay took one touch, played it into Roberts. Roberts looked straight away, he's seeing that gap. He plays a lovely little ball, a lovely little ball. Mayenda's first touch was brilliant. He took it in his stride, and then he bang. It was an outstanding finish.
And you know, was it Don Goodman, I think, on Sky Sports, he complimented the goal quite a lot, where he said something like, similar to Tyrese Campbell, because Tyrese Campbell's was a good finish for his goal, and it was a well-worked one from their perspective. But at the same, there we go, Premier League fixture release day, that's us. But anyway, again, hopefully it isn't well in a year's time as well. But yeah, no, with Mayenda, I mean, the first touch he had was great, the build-up to it was good, and the second touch, from what Don Goodman's quote was, first touch, really good, second touch, even
outstanding,
better. And then once the second touch, once it left his foot,
you knew it was
bang,
in. It was in, and he connected well. With his weaker side as well.
Exactly. So, and I think Mayenda, that just shows how well he's come on. I think he got 10 goals this season now, including the playoffs. So, you know, and you got to hand it to him. And when that went in, I kind of went, wait, hang on, can I celebrate? VR's going to...
Did you know what Don Goodman said? Because we've watched that many videos back. I've watched about the one you sent in the WhatsApp group. I just keep watching them back because it's just a great feeling.
It's a moment, isn't it?
When we scored that goal, the noise, the crowd, and Don Goodman says, I can't understand how Sheffield United, it's just a goal out with nothing. You know what I mean? He's basically saying, but that's what happens, though, Don. That's what happens in football. You can't just have all this. We didn't have all the possession. No. We just done a little bit of magic because Lafay. That's why we got him on loan, Don Goodman, and he produced.
Well, yeah, exactly,
you know what I mean?
Exactly. So. And even then, if you want to look at it that way, I've seen Sheffield United win plenty of games like that exact fashion this season when they've been quite fortunate to win. So I think it's about time it went against them. But if you look at the equalising goal, and then I don't know what you think. I think from the moment we equalised, I felt Sheffield United in the second. I've said this to a few times to people at work, actually, funny enough. But I've said this a few times. Sheffield United's game plan for me, because remember, I think Gustavo Hamer went off.
Yeah.
Ben Burton Diaz had been brought on, then subbed back off again because he was injured.
Because
he was the one when Tree Hume decided to crunch tackle him. And
that was a class tackle, though. When I seen it,
that says a lot from Shaun because he's had his own opinion on Trey Hume. But
I know, because I do think he's got a good tackle, but his defensive side I don't think it's great. And I think next season he'll get found out if he's the right back.
Well, you never know. Watch him be one of the best right backs in the Premier League.
But watch, I've said that, and he's just stuck guns from there to like.
He's going to be like Trent Alexander-Arnold. Really.
I hope he does. I mean, do you know what? Last couple of games though, I've liked the way he's getting stuck in, and he's not scared of anybody.
Sometimes he's just done this simple get it out of play and just do the simple positional things. Yeah. But obviously, I think Sheffield United's Hamer going off. Obviously, Hamer's a big player for them. He's one that I probably wouldn't be against looking at actually in the summer. But either way, though, I think. I don't know about you, but Sheffield United for me from the second half, really, their tactic was just defend the 1-0 and just see out. And I think their reaction when Sunderland scored the first goal was, crap, they weren't supposed to do that. And I don't know about you.
Didn't it?
I think so. And from that moment to the end of the game, there was only one team that was going to win.
Our tails was up on this.
You could tell straight from that moment on to the end of the game, we dominated. In my opinion, absolutely dominated. And it was obviously I was wary of not conceding straight away from scoring because sometimes you're vulnerable. But I thought the passing was crisper. It was slicker. It was cleaner. It was.
And I think when Roberts come on as well on the right, he done well.
I thought
sometimes I think he's a bit ball grady, but he actually drawn a couple of fouls. He done well.
They were terrified of him. They were absolutely terrified. Like Harrison Burrows, and I think it was Ahmed Hozic. They were terrified of Roberts. Every time he was running at them, they were just. If the only way they were going to stop him was by giving a foul away.
Was wiping them out.
And so to be fair to Roberts, and I've been one of his biggest critics, and I like Patrick Roberts a lot actually. But I thought in the playoff final when he came on, I thought he was one of the best players on the pitch. Obviously, Patterson, I think, probably deserved to get man of the match because of the big saves he made. But if you're looking at outfield players, I think Roberts has got to be up there with Roberts, Job. I thought Hume got better.
I thought Lafayette done well as well. I thought he's, he had
a big hand in the first goal, obviously. But once we got 1-1, I was shouting, obviously in a more profanity style than this, but I was basically shouting, these are rubbish at the back. Get at them.
I was thinking myself.
I was thinking, come on, we can beat these here. We're good enough to beat them.
I was thinking myself, though. I was thinking, I hope this doesn't get extra time. I can't be doing my extra time penalties.
Do you know what my prediction was? It was 2-1 to Sunderland, but after extra time.
Oh, God.
But if you offered an extra time victory before the game,
of course you would
as
have.
long as you win, you don't get. But obviously, you're thinking my heart rate can't take this. But anyway. Then obviously comes
95th minute.
By the way, before I go on to this, whoever at the club came up with the slogan "Till the End" 3 years ago, give them the biggest pay rise, give them a 5-star holiday, all expenses paid for, luxury flight, give them everything that they want. Get that on the table and get it onto them, because I'll tell you what, again, Coventry away, 88th minute for winner,
unbelievable,
122nd minute aggregate winner for the second leg, 95th minute winner in the Championship playoff final. Let's get into the moment.
Into the moment. I mean,
so obviously Roberts. It started funny with Roberts losing the ball, funnily enough, and I was going, "Oh, why are you doing that?" But then of course Kiefer Moore must have felt sorry for us,
and then decided to pass us the ball back.
I don't know what Kiefer Moore
was doing there.
Yeah, if I was Sheffield United,
I was like, "That's loose." That's loose.
That's a very loose pass. And to be fair to Watson, who's took a lot of stick from
the fans.
For Watson, the best way he could have left the club was by doing that. But I said, "Look, you know what? I don't care about that. Just win the game." But anyway, so Moore's pass goes loose. It's very, very loose pass, actually. I don't know what he was doing. If I was a Sheffield United fan, I'd be fuming.
He just totally misjudged the pass.
Yeah, he did.
And then obviously Tommy Watson
reacts quickest. And obviously, it's nearest to him within a few yard radius. But
runs into the middle. And then
he runs into the middle.
I thought he took a heavy touch at first,
you know what? Then when the ball left his foot, I thought, oh, that's going to go wide. And then it trickles into the back of the net. And I don't know what you were like when, as soon as you saw that go in.
Oh, God.
Honestly, I think you thought the Stadium of Light exploded against Coventry. That end of Wembley.
I've never seen scenes like it.
Do you know what? You know what? I actually loved Frankie and Danny's reaction to the second goal. It was fantastic. Love the pair of them. Great duo.
Yeah.
But I was going to say, do you know what? Do you know the Second Tier podcast? Have you heard of them?
I think I've heard of it. Yeah.
Ryan Jukes, Justin Peach. But I haven't watched their full podcast review in Wembley yet. But what they said was, there was a clip they put up and they said, that is probably some of the best scenes they've ever seen when we scored the winning goal. And I think during the game, funnily enough, I almost kind of went through 3 different emotions when Watson's goal went in. My first emotion was, we've actually done this. I was actually in shock that went in. The second one was, oh crap, we've got something to lose now. And then the third one was, Sunderland, please do not let this not be the winning goal. Don't you dare go 2-1 up and then go to extra time and then lose in extra time. I was like, please. You know what? I think I've said this across YouTube as well, actually. I couldn't watch the end of the game. I couldn't watch the last few minutes. I had to go upstairs into the concourse to pace around.
Did you?
I was that nervous because of how much we wanted this promotion and how big for the club financially it is. I was thinking, I have to walk around the concourse to calm down. And I thought, right. And then I came back into the stadium right before the full-time whistle went, and I was thinking, right, I haven't heard a cheer from their end, so I'm going to assume it's still 2-1. And there was a couple of people who were lovely with me, who recognised me from YouTube, that said they watched with me. So I was down the very front row of the top deck of Wembley, of the gods, but I came back and I was like 3 rows behind the concourse doors, and of course I was just waiting for it. But yeah, I mean, quickly before we talk about full time, how mental what was your reaction with Watson scored without being too obvious?
Honestly, it's
without being too obvious.
It was just the scenes. The bloke next to us. It was a bit Raj Jacuzzi here. He was there. Come on, doing that all game. Come on, all game. Like every 2 minutes, and then even when them scored, he was like, "Come on, doing that." I think he'd been on the lash all day. I think all Friday as well. But the scenes, I think he fell down. The row in front. I was just celebrating, jumping all over. My partner, she was jumping all over. We were dead on our feet. It was honestly, I've never seen scenes like it ever. I mean, the Coventry game at home and here, that was unbelievable. This was just like, again, it was just like, you think
this probably topped that moment.
You think it kind of get any better than,
and then this happens.
It just did, and you're thinking, do you know what? 95th minute. we've nearly done it here. And I'm thinking there's 7 minutes, so there's 2 minutes left. But I'm thinking, oh no, there was an injury.
But there was a stoppage, wasn't there?
So there's going to be, it's going to be 100 minutes here.
I think from when he scored, when he was celebrating, I thought there's going to be probably another 5 minutes here. And I turned to Joel behind me and went, "This is going to be the longest 5 minutes."
The longest 5 minutes of your life. This is going to be the longest 5 minutes of your life. You're looking at the watch, I'm biting my nails. And then it leads it up, and then you see, and then the fear. I think he draws a foul and he goes like this, and I love this.
The roar was like, oh, he went like
to the crowd, and I went, that was just, I love that.
I'm getting goosebumps.
I absolutely love that, mate.
Do you know what? I'm getting goosebumps thinking about these moments.
That was just brilliant, man.
But yeah, I mean, it says a lot when winning a free kick, or even right before full time when Sheffield United tried to get the ball forward and it rolled out for a Sunderland throw in. That was cheer. That was the roar happened as much as the goal.
When they done that, I was thinking the pressure's got to me.
And you're thinking, come on, we've got to have done this here. And I was just thinking, ref,
come on,
blow it. So obviously, it didn't. I don't like to plug my own channel very much usually, but go and watch my weekend vlog. So it's my most recent video, my second video, and includes my reaction at full time. And I was going, I feel like I can't have nice things. What can I for one? Can I for one, with the Mags winning the cup and everything? Can we for once have something nice?
But everybody's watching that referee at that time. Everybody was just fixated on the referee. Yeah. You just, come on, blow that whistle, blow the whistle. Yeah. And then
every eye from a Sunderland perspective was on that referee. And
then when he did,
the West Stand exploded with noise.
You see the players running on, coming down. We were just
dying. Honestly, I was sweating with nerves. I probably had about 3 or 4 sweaty blokes kissing me, but I couldn't care less. I was so buzzing that happened. And it's one where, and it's documented. Thankfully, it's documented on YouTube. I loved recording it, and I've got that clip. I'll treasure it forever. But no. I think that was the point when Watson scored. My emotion was, we're 5 minutes away from the Premier League.
That's it. And you think of the money what the club's going to get. You're thinking of the 250
million.
What they're going to get.
We will get on to that.
Players we can get.
Oh, absolutely. You're right. We'll get onto that in a minute. What it means, but I was just thinking to myself. This is what I said during the game. This is why I wanted Sheffield United, because I could genuinely
see this happening.
I could see it. Maybe not in the way we did it, but you couldn't have done it.
Michael, you can sense the future. I'm convinced you can sense the future, like Nostradamus did.
Well, hopefully. All right, then we're going to win the Premier League next year. Then. Spoiler. Well, and not if you flip the league upside down either. No, but Joe, to be fair though, when the full-time whistle went, as you know, it was jubilation, it was pandemonium, it was the euphoria, the scenes were, the limbs, everything was just, it almost felt like this extra release, and I feel like I'm doing this now, the extra sort of release of energy, the release of the years of hurt, the last decade we've put up with, the last couple of seasons in the Championship, bar the second half of last season, has been pretty good for the most part, but before then it was just the years of, of shite, of being stuck in League One for 4 years, back-to-back relegations, years of suffering in the Premier League, of just battling for 17th and that being deemed good at the time. I mean, obviously now it would be deemed good, but I mean, when we were last in it, it was just that, I think it was just everyone just releasing everything in the moment. And obviously you could tell, and even you could just tell the simple thing by just how much it meant to the players of watching them just run and celebrate. And it was the same when Alex Neil, when we got us promoted in 2022, when this felt different. The best way to compare the two finals was that the Wickham game felt like relief.
A relief to get
I was buzzing.
One,
I was buzzing, but it was relief of getting out of League One. This felt like ecstasy and euphoria.
And we're back where we belong.
Yes, and look, I'm aware that is going to be a challenge in the Premier League, but deal with that at another time. We've got the chance to try and build the gap now, and I know there's been obviously the promoted clubs the last 2 years have struggled, but to be fair, if you're looking just at Wembley, I mean, and the fact I went down for 2 nights, I went down on the Friday.
Yeah, I was gutted I didn't come down with you on the Friday. I would have met up with you and we went to Trafalgar Square. I was devastated. I couldn't get the day off work.
Don't worry,
that's the joys of working in this, Anne.
We met up now, it's all that matters.
Exactly.
You still got to experience the moment. I was happy that Joel got to experience it. I was happy. Paul, my mate who helps with the cameras, he hadn't gone to Wembley the last few times. We managed to get him to come along. He says it was probably one of the best weekends of his life. He absolutely loved it. His dad saying he was thanking us for looking after him and everything, and that was really appreciated. But we stayed in the Premier Inn hotel at St Pancras, which was pretty much right in between King's Cross and London Euston. So it was really convenient. It was, so the Friday night, Trafalgar Square was great. I was originally going to go to Trafalgar Square on the Saturday night, but apparently it was dead there. So
because the police were stopping and people were getting them with the drinks.
Covent Garden apparently was rammed on Saturday. I wish I'd gone there actually, but going down there for the weekend is so much better than going there and back on the day. So, and in the second night, the Saturday night, I mean, me, Dan, Andrew, that's fine. Myself, my mates, Dan, Andrew, and Paul, we've probably gone on for an hour and a half.
An hour and a half.
Okay.
Apologies, we've been going
give it another 10 minutes, so we'll try and wrap it up.
Yeah, I want to do it at the end.
I'll finish my point. But no, the Saturday night, even though we just kind of had a drink in the hotel bar, it was brilliant. We were talking to Sunderland fans next to us, going, what this means for the club. But in coming back, we come back Sunday night, and we were just thinking, wow, that is good. For me, that's one of the best weekends of my life. It is. And although Tommy Watson, look, to say to him, look, I'm just obviously with what's happened, he's going to Brighton now, but he's also banked 10 million from that transfer, and he's just scored the goal that secured us
as well,
multiple hundreds of millions of pounds. And you know what? And I've got to say, the lads, to Reggie Brees, to everyone at the club, to Speakman, to Harvey, and I'm going to say KLD in this as well. Thanks, because they said 5-year plan from their first full season to get back in the Prem. They've done it in 4 years. Reggie Brees has been an outstanding appointment. We've broken the cycle of competing against parachute payment clubs for the top two all season.
Out with that now,
We've now beaten a parachute payment team from behind at Wembley in the 95th minute, dramatically, to get promoted to the Premier League. And now to sort of move on to what means afterwards. That goal, I don't think people underestimate at the time now how big that Watson goal was, how big that win was, because now the financial landscape, even if we come straight back down next season, even if we come back down to the Championship, we are a parachute team. The money you can get from that and what you can do from that is unparalleled. Yeah, go on.
Well, to all the subscribers out there and all the Sunderland fans, what you've got to bear in mind is that right now, Sunderland are in the best financial state they've been in for a long, long time.
Exactly.
A long time. I mean, back in the Ella Shaw era where we were in debt, we are not in debt anymore. We are sort of ran. The club's really ran in a very good way, to be fair. If you're looking at it, it's run really well now. They're not overpay for players, and the money what you're going to get off Sky, the season ticket sales, the sponsorship deals, everything.
The increase in wages you can pay as well.
We've got a lot of room to manoeuvre now in the Premier League, and if we do things right, like next season, now we get the right players in, we get the right.
Oh no, he's going to get me hopes up here. Go on.
There's no reason why we can't have a good season.
At the very least, have a good staying up.
Yeah, that's got to be the minimum objective, is to stay up.
I think for me, if you offered me 17th right now, I'd snap your hand off.
Yeah, and then I say that's coming from Michael as well, because Michael, when the Premier League the years, he always used to say it's so negative, and he's right, trying to stay up. But
for this first season, the crucial thing is if we can stay up, then I think it allows you to
build on it.
Yes,
Forest did that one time.
Exactly.
They went out and spent a lot of money. They stayed up, and then the next season, what happened? Then they got Champions League.
No, to be fair, I think the first two seasons they had like 15th and 17th, but now they've obviously
progressed
beaten in Europe. So
got 6th
but
nothing.
This is for me, right? Because this is how big that is now. Look, I'm aware Sunderland's going to have to spend quite a bit of money to have a chance. But I've said before, and I'll say this now: don't be surprised if most of our signings come from foreign leagues and abroad. But as long as they're good enough, and as long as they're able to play at Prem level and are able to adapt quickly enough, I don't have a problem with that. That's fine.
Let's just go for the 10 then, Michael, because I want to do this. Let's go for the starting 11 and a couple of the fringe players. Let's
just keep going to 2 hours. Let's just keep going to 2 hours.
I just want to see what you think if these players are ready.
Are we talking about how many? Are we talking to see how many signs you think we'll need?
No. If the players we've got now,
all right, okay.
Who you think's good enough or could be good enough? Because I'm honestly really unsure.
The Prem's a different level now.
Anthony Patterson.
Right. I think we need a new keeper.
Yeah, same here.
By the way, and I know that's going to sound ridiculous.
Because people say he's pulled two sleeves off.
That's
not being harsh. Remember in the comments. Put in the comments and me, Michael.
This is the thing, right? Look, don't get me wrong. If Patterson proves me wrong and is end up more than good enough, bloody brilliant. Couldn't be happier for the guy. I really hope he proves us wrong. But I think we're going to have to judge it on a very harsh level and say what we need. So now. If we I think it's the position we might need strengthening the least, but I still think we need strengthening it. So personally, for me, I think we need. I wouldn't complain with getting a new number one starting keeper.
Absolutely, Mike. I totally agree with you there. Dennis Serkin.
With some of these players, it's going to be hard for me to judge because I haven't seen them in the Premier League. But just this is just purely on gut feeling right now. It's nothing else.
Yeah.
My gut feeling is if Dennis Serkin's fit, I think he's got a chance of making a step up.
With me,
the big thing for him is injuries.
Yeah, with me, it's injuries. That's the first thing.
But if we signed another left back, I wouldn't be against it.
I've watched him the last couple of games, and I mean, Coventry's a good side, and Sheffield United's a good side. But I've watched him. I'm thinking, is he going to be ready in the Premier League? I'm not too sure.
I know what you mean.
The question marks there with Serkin on the right hand side.
We'll put maybe at the minute.
Trey Hume.
I've got more I know you're not the biggest fan of Sheringham. I think he's got a chance of making a step up as well.
Right.
I think he's got a. I might be wrong, but the thing is, remember these players might have to adapt to the Prem. I think with Human Sirkin, I've got gut feelings they can be good enough, but I've got question marks on whether they can do it yet. I need to see them in the Prem before I make a judgment. But remember, they're going to be up against a much higher caliber.
High caliber footballer.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think Tria Hume, even though, you know what, last couple of games I've started actually like Tria Hume. It's just the tackles he puts in, and because Mike and I'm watching him and I'm judging him off his defensive skills and
his positional awareness.
His positional awareness.
I
think
he
gets forward,
yeah.
but then he leaves himself open.
See, to me, I think in general his positional awareness is actually pretty good, but maybe we just watch a different game. It's quite funny. It's opinions. How it works.
Opinions.
Right. Okay then. Centre backs. So are we including Chris Metham in this?
Chris Metham's going to go. I think Chris Metham will go back to Bournemouth. I don't think we'll exercise the deal.
I was going to say Bournemouth have the end of his contract is next month, but Bournemouth have a 1-year extension, so they'd be very surprised if it didn't trigger it to get some money. Me personally, quickly, I would sign Chris Metham just on the basis as a squad option, but with the idea in mind that if we go down,
you can use him in the Championship.
He's good enough. He's more than good enough.
Possibly, that's a way of thinking. That's a good way of thinking.
If he costs 5 million or less, for example, I would
then
go for
do
him.
it.
Yeah, if it's any more than that, I'd be like, nah, probably not.
Luke O'Nine's gone out for a few months, isn't he, with his shoulder? But
I'm not going to lie. I think Luke O'Nine will be imperative to keep for the dressing room.
I still would keep him, mate.
I would
for the dressing room.
I would as a squad player for the dressing room. But I'm not going to lie, I think he'd get murdered in the Premier League.
I think he would.
And I really hate saying that because I love Luke O'Nine. But you've got to be ruthless.
You've got to be realistic, haven't you?
No, exactly.
And I love Luke O'Nine. I think the fans love him, but he's done 2 steps. It's a fairy tale. I mean, where he started to where he is now.
7 years ago, he joined us in League One.
Yeah.
And remember, he joined us as an attacking midfielder, then was playing right back, then was playing left back,
and
now he's a centre half.
He's a defender. He is actually a defender.
Exactly. So.
And I still would, you know what, Luke O'Nine, I wouldn't imagine he'd be on big wages, so he's still got a few years left. Luke O'Nine loves the club. Luke O'Nine will not want to go, he'll want to steer.
And by the way, I remember, like with Metham to a degree, if you go down, you can use him in the Championship. Yeah. So I think you have him around the dressing room. But
as a squad player,
player for the mid. But then if you go down to the Championship, you can use him.
Yeah,
it's one of those.
So we're both agreeing on that one. So basically, Tria Hume, unsure, certain. Well, Tria Hume, I don't think he'd be good enough in the Premier League. Certain, we're sort of unsure.
Okay,
and Ballard, I'm not sure.
I think Ballard.
O'Nine was saying he's not going to be good enough.
I'm going to say, I think Ballard could be if you get a really good centre back next to him.
I think, do you know what?
Possibly.
I think Ballard.
I think he's got the best chance of the 3 so far.
I think Ballard could be good in the Premier League with crosses and set pieces. I think he's brilliant. But as you and David said about him, his
distribution from the back isn't great.
Yeah, and bringing the ball up.
I don't think he's as bad as that as Dave says he is, but I do also recognise that.
O'Nine's better with the ball.
If you sign a good centre back who's a good defender but is a better distributor of the ball, then I think you could see Ballard's levels raised potentially.
Yeah.
But so far we've said one player.
Yeah. Which is worrying.
Which it really is. And it's not a slight on any of these players. It's just how big the gap is.
Remain Mundell.
Right. Do you remember? I remember a lot of our fans when Romain Mundell was doing well, going, "Oh, he's better than Jack Clarke." I don't think he is, and I like Romain Mundell. I think he's a really good player, good player. And the fact that we're reportedly looking at getting him a contract, a new contract talks, suggests we view him as a good enough player long term. But you got to look at it. You think, well, Spurs Academy rated him very highly. It was Mundell's decision to go.
But they say he come with a package, shouldn't it? It's like,
that's the thing. Right, Mundell. I think we need a new left winger.
Same here. I agree. I'm saying it as well. I think he's a championship. I think he's a top thingy championship.
I think Mundell as a second choice winger, I think wouldn't be too bad. I think a lot of the players you got now who are top end championship players could become squad players if you sign a few starting players. So yeah, I'll say we need a new left winger.
Yeah, right. Go in the middle, Dan Neil.
I don't know if I'm in the minority here, but I think Dan Neil with the right development is a Premier League.
Something good next to him could be good.
You've got to remember. There's a reason that Prem clubs have been constantly sniffing around him.
So I thought he's poor in the final, and I'm being thingy there, but
nah, I mean he wasn't. I didn't think he was poor, but I didn't think he was very. I didn't think he was great.
Passing was off, wasn't it? Sloppy
I think, again, put it this way, I view Neil as a 6, and there's rumours, but Sunderland, I think it was from the Guardian. Sunderland apparently is debating whether to sign Jordan Henderson. Now, I know there's going to be. And I respect the opinion of those Sunderland fans that people say, especially for female ones, they're probably in a better position to comment on this. Obviously, Jordan Henderson went to Saudi Arabia, and obviously they're not a pro-female regime. They're not a they're not a particularly pleasant regime.
Yeah.
So I understand why people wouldn't take him. If I'm looking at it just from a pure footballing ability, I'd snap your hand off of Jordan Henderson.
Yeah,
I think
I'd love that.
I think it's imperative we sign a couple of Premier League experienced players.
It's got to be. That's got to be
Henderson for me would
that has got to be the key thing, because we've always questioned the model. Sorry, you've mentioned again
The model.
We've questioned it, and I think now, with all this money what we've got behind us, you're not going to sort of look at players what's got these packages and certain what's he called, Cirkin, the other one who the black lad who what's he called again, the defender. Elise, yeah. I think he's come with a package. These players we signed, they seem to have an injury sort of comes with them as well. Do you know what I mean?
So I think it's fascinating to see how that's going to work out there. But I think if you're looking at this one, you're going to need some experience across the spine of the team, I think. I think, long story short, it depends what system you got. If you went with a 4-2-3-1, for example,
maybe the system, yeah.
If you went with a 4-2-3-1 in the Prem, and Dan Neil was one of the sitters, and Jordan Henderson was the other one, I think you could do a lot worse than that.
Definitely. I
think you could do a lot worse than that. But I'm aware that it's going to be. I'm aware, and remember, I think Jordan Henderson's Ajax contract, I think he's got 1 year left, and I know he would want to. Obviously, he's not going to want to pay for 10 pence a week and a pack of Freddles, but like he'll want to have a competitive wage. But I think he would take a pay cut to come to Sunderland.
Definitely. I think
so. He's already. I mean, and I don't think that Henderson's declined so much from when he left Liverpool to the point where he can't play in the Prem still. I think for a bottom end Prem club, which we would be next season, I think he could have a chance of playing in that division.
Absolutely.
So
I'd love to see that happen.
And I don't think I don't think if we had to pay a fee, I don't think it'd be very much.
Yeah.
You know, but my point, or even if you got him on loan, if Ajax were willing to entertain that. But either way, I think so. Right, Neil, with the right midfielder around him, I think he'd be possibly, yeah.
Job, I think there's not much really to say about Job, because I think
there's not much point because he's going to.
I think he's going to be away in the next. I think we're looking at breaking news on reliable journalists. I mean, I'm not on Twitter anymore, but they're basically saying that he's in agreement with Brucey at Dortmund.
This is off Football Insider, who tend to not be reliable. But to be fair,
skeptical about that.
I also wouldn't put that beyond the realms of possibility either.
I think Job's on leave in the next few days. And I'm being honest.
But if he is going to leave, good luck with the lads. If he is going to leave, I'd rather it was now, so that we can at least got time to get a replacement.
Good luck with him. I mean, and he's part of the team, of course, part of the big time. And wish him on in the future.
I think that my only disappointment with Job is that I think, and I understand it, you know, if Dortmund I don't think are in. I think Dortmund had a really poor season actually, but it's still Borussia Dortmund. They are a huge club, but at the same time, I would have liked him to have thought Sunderland, Premier League, biggest stage, have a chance of playing. But you've got to bear in mind, though,
I think his family's looking after him here, Michael.
To be fair, but I think
him.
I think it wouldn't have been a bad bet for him to play in front of our fans of the Prem. But at least, like you said, at least if he goes, he's gone having helped us get the Prem. He's gone having helped us get a couple of $100 million.
Are they not looking at, though, Mike? We've discussed it. I think they're looking at the Bynum family and saying, look, I'm not convinced. We're not convinced he's ready for the Premier League. And if he gets found out, it's going to sort of hinder his progress.
Okay, how about this then?
Do you know what I mean?
Sell him, but have a buyback clause. Then say if we're still in the Prem, then you think he's ready.
I think part of the deal will be a sell-on clause anyway. If Dortmund buy him,
it will be.
I think there'll be a.
Well, you've got to remember, Speakman. This is one of the things Speakman's excellent at, which is that putting sell-on clauses in deals and everything else to go with it. Yeah, so there's no point talking about Joe because he's probably going to go.
Michael,
so we'll remove Joe from the equation.
Roberts,
definitely not good enough.
Yeah.
Again, it sounds like I'm being harsh, but I think you've got to. I think Roberts. I mean, he's got 1 year left on his contract. I think. I know we've had to pay Man City £2 million. I think it is because of all the clauses because we've reached the Premier League. But that's worth it because it's £2 million offset. It's £2 million offset against a couple of $100 million.
Exactly.
Look, and remember, the money we're talking about, we don't get it all straight away. I don't think. So we've got to be careful with what we do here. So. I think with Roberts, if an offer comes in from a championship club, I think you probably accept it. Either that, or you give him a longer contract and send him out on loan.
Yeah. I was thinking maybe keep him as a fringe player again. Like Mundell, keep him as fringe players, but not as starters. Like Chris Rigg was going to come to him next. Chris Rigg, I don't think he's going to be good enough in the Premier League either. He's far too young. Loan him out, maybe possibly.
Right now, maybe not. I think in time he will be. I think personally what I'd like to do with Rigg, because he's got another 2 years left, I'd like to get him on a 4 or 5 year contract if we can, because then if, say, he develops better, or we send him out, I mean, I don't think we'd send him out on loan, I think he'll stay, but say if he was, developing in the first, part of the first team squad in the Prem, then I think when the time comes for him to be sold, we've got a longer length of contract and we can get more money. But this is why I always say length of contract for players is important, it matters. But Chris Rigg, no, I think Right now, not sure, but I think he will be good enough in time.
Enzo Lafay, I know he's going to be able to play now, because obviously when we signed Enzo Lafay, it was
an obligation
for us to, if we got promoted, we had to buy him. And to be fair, I think all the players, he's the only one player I think could do it in the Premier League, because I think he has got that genuine
I think a
quality.
lot of people said that when we signed him and thought, how the hell have Sunderland managed to pull
I
out?
know.
And obviously Reggie Lebris was a massive part of that,
And
that move materialising. So I think with Enzo Lafay, I would say that I'm looking at the table there. It looks so good.
I know. We've got Sky Sports News on the telly there, but probably should have turned off. I'm looking over.
I don't care.
I'm looking at the telly.
You don't have to now. It's League One. It's League One now. It's fine. That's another thing. Birmingham and Wrexham going up. They're both going to have a right go in the Championship next year. But anyway, no. Right, sorry. Right, who is it? Oh, yeah, Lafay. Well, obviously, I believe the fee is something around 20 million quid.
Yeah.
And I think it's... And I'm sure I read somewhere that the length of contract's 4 years.
Really?
I can't remember where I read it, and I might be wrong, but I'm sure I read it somewhere.
I think he'd come with a big wage though as well, Enzo Lafay.
You're going to have to pay wages anyway in the Prem.
You're going to have to break the wage barrier somewhere.
Well, that's what I mean. So I think that we've pretty much been paying his wages on loan, apparently. So I mean, that's another reason of getting promoted is important. You get to keep Lafay, don't you?
Yeah.
For at least another year.
Exactly.
So I think Lafay, I think
he'd be all right.
And actually, I think Lafay, if you look at it, he's probably going to... I think you've got to remember that maybe one of the reasons that Lafay hasn't been able to have been as effective is because a lot of games we've been playing teams that are happy to sit in and restrict space. In the Premier League, we're going to get a lot of space because I think a lot of teams will play. Well, I think we're going to play on the counter quite a lot, and I think that'll be where Lafay might shine best. So Lafay, yes.
I think obviously I'll just briefly go on about Tommy Watson. Obviously, we'll love that he scored the winner at Wembley, but good luck with him at Brighton. I think it would have been
apart from against us.
It would have been. I think it would have been nice to see him sort of have a go in the Premier League for Sunderland. But obviously that's not. He's gone to Brighton for 10 million, so we've got 10 million as well to go in the kitty. So good luck with that.
I think I'd agree with that. I mean, obviously, I think there was a lot of criticism for Tommy Watson, and I think justifiably so. But I also think that if you'd said to Tommy Watson the best way he could have left was scoring the winner that's got us promoted. So I think a lot of people will be a lot softer towards Tommy Watson now. But as far as Tommy Watson goes, that fee from Watson 10 million pays towards half of the fee. So this way you've got to offset players going out and coming in.
Just the last couple of players before we wrap it up because we've been going on a while.
This is probably our longest video yet. But,
it is,
but it's got to be. It's a season review of a promotion season.
Me and Michael's agree we are going to try and get more videos over the summer. Michael's going to try and get me Arsenal again. I will try and get me Arsenal because I kind of.
Don't worry, I promise.
I can't wait to do the aftermath and the interviews with Michael next season in the Premier League. I've always wanted to do it, and finally we're getting our wish, Michael, as well.
Exactly. It's going to be great.
But anyway,
hopefully, anyway.
The last few players will.
But yeah, sorry, quickly, guys.
Wilson, Isidore.
Quickly on the thing you've just said there. A lot of people have been asking me constantly about how you're doing and everything else. So a lot of people really miss you. But anyway, who was it? Isidore.
Your mum and dad was watching your video and they says, I mustn't watch it because.
Do I look like an escaped convict?
No. You watch your video and they say, Michael was talking about your one of your videos down Wembley, and I think I was.
Yeah, I said, don't worry, guys. Sean's alive. He does still exist. He's fine. He hasn't. Thankfully, he hasn't died or anything.
I was laughing when they said that.
Yeah, no, you got to have a bit of humour. Right, Isidore.
Wilson Isidore. He's obviously out player now.
I'm going to put Isidore and Mayenda in a group together. I think out of the two, the Mayenda's got the bigger chance of making the step up for me. I think Isidore has been a very solid championship. I think there's times his ball retention could be a bit better. I think there's times when holding the ball up, I think it could be sometimes the ball bounces off him, but you also can't ignore the fact he got to 13 goals in the first season in English football. So I think Isidore on the fence at the moment. But again, remember, if we deem him not good enough and a championship club comes in for him,
for a decent favour, could be a profit on him.
Say for example, tell you a good example. Say if Ipswich lose Liam Delap, Ipswich might go, there's 10-15 million for Wilson Isidore. You go, right, you know what? But anyway, so Isidore, I'm unsure. I don't know yet. My gut says towards no, but I could be wrong. This again is how harsh I've got to be for the Prem. Mayenda, straight away, I think would need to adapt to it, but I think yes. I think Mayenda's got every chance of being good enough.
You think he could do a job in the Premier League? Yeah?
Maybe not straight away, but I think in time he will do.
In time, if you're giving him time, as an impact sub or something like that.
So if you're looking at a starting 11 potentially of who we've said, Ballard,
and the fears only two bit
Ballard. I think Ballard. I think we said Daniel. Daniel, possibly Dan Ballard, likely Lafay, yes. Mayenda, we'll say Mayenda to be generous.
That's 4. Mike, that's a bit worrying.
By the way, I know you're gonna disagree, but I'm gonna throw Trey Human there. So for me,
that's fine.
But for me, then you still need 6. That's a problem.
And then you so basically what you're saying there that we need 6 new signings who's going to make a difference
in the starting 11 straight away. Yeah,
and then that's including your strength and depth for injuries and things.
But remember, this is why
summer.
This is why I've said a lot of our signings, I think, will come from abroad because the English market is ridiculously inflated these days.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, a bang average defender in the Prem probably costs 30 million these days.
God.
So
this is where I think Stuart Harvey and then Christian
they're
Speaker's
gonna have their work cut out
they're
them.
going to have to like you know.
But this is what right. Look, I'm not saying we're definitely going to stay up or anything like that, but I reckon there's two big things that for me I think gives us a better chance than people think. If you look at the promoted clubs over the last 2 years, like look at our first year in the Championship when we lost to Luton. So Burnley and Sheffield United got the top two. Luton won the playoffs.
Yeah.
Right. Discount Luton for a second because they weren't expected to do anything anyway. They have a new stadium to pay for. They didn't have as much money to use. Burnley lost, I think, likes of Nathan Teller. They lost, I think it was Harwood Bellis. They lost two big players straight away for them. And then straight away, and Vincent Kompany wouldn't adapt in the Premier League. He kept insisting on playing his way.
Yeah.
Sheffield United lost Sander Bergs to Burnley, which is really poor. They lost a couple of other key players, apparently. They had a couple of managerial changes, Paul Beckenbottom to Chris Wilder. That didn't help things. Then you look at last season. Leicester lost Maresca, Enzo Maresca. He went to Chelsea. That didn't help them. Then they obviously changed manager again in the season. There was a lot of unrest at Leicester. Southampton... Right, Ipswich, we'll discount them. Ipswich kind of went, who was mint in the Championship? Sign them. Which is literally what they did. To be fair, Ipswich should have a proper super team in the Championship next season, really, when you stop and look at it.
And they're not going to keep Delap, though, really.
Delap's the only one.
He's got a release cost.
30 million quid, yeah.
Well, he's definitely going to... I think Newcastle's being linked with him.
Man United were linked with him. See, if he was someone I would have wanted us to go for, but 30 million, we're not going to pay that. And especially with the clubs there that are in for him. But you look at it, so Ipswich, I think... had largely Championship players recruited. I think you then look at who's the other one, Southampton. The biggest thing for them, Russell Martin would not adapt in the Prem, and he got found out massively, and that's what's caused the problem. So there's two big things that for me, while I'm not saying we're going to stay up because I know how big the gap is, there's two things that gives a bit of hope here. I think we might do better than people think. The first one is Speakman and Harvey's recruitment in general. There's been plenty of misses in there, but when the hits have been there, they've been big hits. And I think now this is the first time where I think they're going to have a proper amount of money to use and go with. And with that, means you can pay better wages, you can get better players, and so on. So even if, say, you spent £100 million, for example, but you spend it on 5 really good
quality players,
first team players from abroad,
it still gives you 100 million spare on the wages, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Do you know what I mean?
But again, you've got to remember, we're not going to spend all the money up front straight away.
No.
So I think, and we're not going to get the money up front straight away. So you have to be a bit careful here. But you got to bear in mind as well, we're getting 10 million from Watson. We're probably going to get 25 to 30 million from Joe Bellingham as well.
So that's
an extra bit of money to add towards it. So that could fund Lefay and maybe one other big signing. There's that, and the second one, weirdly, is Regis Lebris, because although I've been critical of his tactical thing in terms of substitutions, he's someone who I don't think is afraid to be adaptable and afraid to play counter-attacking. And I think that was one of the biggest things why I say the likes of Burnley under Vincent Kompany and Southampton last year struggled because their head coaches wouldn't adapt to the Prem. I think Lebris will adapt to the Premier League. And I think that, and if you look at the other two clubs that have come with us, Leeds for me have the best squad at the moment out of the three of us. But the big question for me is Daniel Farke.
The manager, there was talk about sacking him, And
well, this is the thing, because I think at Norwich he obviously did really poorly, but at the same time he didn't have I think at Leeds he'll have better resources than he would have at Norwich. But how good Daniel Farke's Prem record isn't very good, so I don't know how much that offsets the other. With Burnley, they've just lost C.J. Egan-Riley, who's one of the big players behind their defensive stability last year. I think right now, I think we'd finish above Burnley.
I definitely think we will.
I think Burnley will be bottom.
Scott Parker just doesn't seem to...
Scott Parker, I mean,
doesn't seem to do in the Premier League,
and I think... So whereas I think Lebris will be adaptable and will play counter-attacking, and I think Scott Parker will play defensive, I think the difference, I think we'd cause more problems than Burnley would going forward.
I agree with you, brother,
So I think... Cheers, brother. That's me, appreciate it. I think... So I'm keen to see how we do in that regard. Now, obviously, I'm aware we have to get the recruitment bang on. It has to. Every single signing we make for the main team,
it's got to be on the money,
It's got to be on a Enzo Lefay for the Championship level. It's got to be on that sort of level, really. So, but look, at the same time, I'm quite excited to see what we're going to do.
Because to see what's going to happen next.
I remember it's the first. This window, I wouldn't be surprised our transfer record's going to be broken quite a few times.
It's going to have to be.
It's
going to have to be, really.
So if you look at Enzo Lefay as an example, he's now technically even though it's not been announced yet, but he's our first record signing, I think, because it was 20 million quid with a 4-year deal. So you know what we're going to say? Didier Ndong is no longer our record signing.
What the club will do when they release the permanent signing of Enzo Lefay, it'll just see its undisclosed fee. Because these like to keep it
Well, to be fair, Fabrizio Romano, I remember, said something like it was 23, 24 million euros. So I'll have a quick check.
So that's a thing of 20 million, isn't it? I think.
Yeah. So I'll just quickly, But no, I was going to say, but how do you feel going into the summer window, and how do you feel about Speakman and Harvey with the recruitment they're going to have to do in Labreese in the Premier League
Do you know
and
what?
stuff?
He's getting us to this point, and I think the recruitment, although he's made some mistakes, as we have signed some crocs, haven't we? Let's be honest, Michael. But he's done. He's done a lot more better than good. I mean, he's done a lot better. He's signed a lot better players than the duds were signed. But that's going to happen when you're recruiting. You're going to for every 3 players you might sign good. There might be
class, is it?
It's going to you might get a bad player, but.
Just quickly, so 23-24 million euros is 20 million quid.
There you go. That's roughly, Enzo Lafia is going to be the record signing when they announce it.
The first record signing in the window. So go on. But I think Speakman and Harvey's recruitment gives me a bit of hope, because I think our recruitment, when they get it right, is really good. So, and I think with the more money we're going to spend, the bigger chance we're going to have of getting it right.
Yeah.
So, which unfortunately is the way of the world these days. So, yeah, I'm certainly intrigued to see what we're going to be doing. Yeah. And this is why we've kept saying that winning that playoff final was absolutely massive for us, because now, again, worst case scenario, we come straight back down.
We've got the parachute payments.
Exactly. Yeah. Obviously, with that comes the extra pressure of
getting out of the first season, but it gives you a huge advantage.
Yeah. But we have a chance now to see if we can. And this is ultimately the Premier League. How long we're going to be there for, we don't know. It might be 1 year, it might be 10 years, it might be 100 years.
Let's hope it's a few years and we compete.
It's hopefully we're going to start competing at the level we should be competing at. But for now, at the minute, look, for now, I'm enjoying the moment. I'm enjoying the idea of going up. We did it probably in the most dramatic way possible.
The best way at Wembley.
Yeah, exactly. So, and we knew from early on that Leeds and Burnley that we weren't going to get top 2 because the points gap was going to be too much.
Yeah.
But we deserved to go up. Remember that we deserved across the whole season. I know Sheffield United finished 14 points ahead of us. Again, we jacked in the last 6 games.
Yeah.
They wouldn't have finished. And Sheffield United, when the 3 times we played them, we were the better team against them twice. And even Wembley's second half, we were and last 20 minutes we dominated. So we deserve this. And after all the crap we put up with, especially in the last decade on its own, which could be written as a book in and of itself.
Yeah.
We enjoy it. Like, enjoy the moment, take it in, embrace it, soak it, and just I'm gonna say the F word here. Fucking enjoy it.
Anyway,
we've had enough of that, and let's enjoy the summer.
Me and Michael's went on for 2 hours. I hope you can watch the full video. If you can't,
if you made it to now, well done.
Hats off to you. But like you see it, it's been a great season
to do this again.
Great ending to the season. I'm looking forward to being back interviewing next season in the Premier League. I've always wanted to do the fans' reactions in the Premier League, and
look forward to meeting during the summer. Hopefully,
and we're going to do. Me and Michael's going to try and get as many videos during the summer, like just as many as possible.
It might even just be one of these every couple of weeks or something like that.
Hopefully, fingers crossed. But Michael's always going to give me cases. Sometimes I'm a little bit laxy-daisy, but Michael's the one that always pushed us to do things. But
well, it was me who kind of pushed hard to do this, because I really thought that, because one, I think people love you anyway, and 2, because I think they like us together as a duo, and also because there's a lot to talk about. And I think this video was always going to be really long because it's a season review, and it's a season review of a promotion-winning campaign.
Exactly. So, I always like to say apologies on my behalf. I've been working just absolutely loads and loads and loads. But
give him abuse for having a life.
But I will try to get to as many games next season now. I'm going to obviously.
Hopefully we'll see. But like I said, guys, to end the video, just remember, whether you were at Wembley, whether you watched it at home, whether you watched it from abroad, whether you just were able to watch it at home with your parents or your family or in Sunderland or wherever it is, I really hope you enjoyed Saturday, because I loved it being down there. I think, obviously, I wouldn't be saying that if we'd lost, but if you just go and watch my vlog, like, it was literally the one where I said Shaun's still alive at the end of it. And Stephen Hensel, Stephen Hensel's a really cracking lad, and I had a bit of a crack on with him in the video. But yeah, he said literally, I would love it if you go outside and said, stick it to you, Stephen Hensel. I knew he would win. So yeah, but look, we've earned this right. Yeah. We've earned the right to be in the Prem. We've earned the right to enjoy the playoff final victory. We've had so much rubbish, and we were written off by a lot of people before the playoffs even started. Yeah. We were written off by saying Sheffield United's got a massive gap, to quote George Ellick from Not the Top 20, not gonna lie, between Sheffield United and Sunderland. Like, we deserve the win. Yeah. We deserve to go up. We did it the hard way. Yeah. We've earned the right to have a chance to being sustainable in the Prem again. Whether we do it or not, I don't know, but For now, enjoy the moment and enjoy the
Enjoy
summer,
the moment,
and let's
yeah.
see what the ride brings
That's the
next
big thing.
season.
Enjoy the moment. 8 years we've been away from the Premier. 8
Which
years.
for a club of our size is
We've
pathetic,
been League
really.
One for 4. So, like you say, enjoy this moment. Enjoy your summers. And me and Michael will be back in the next few weeks. And I can't wait to do the fans' reactions. I really can't wait.
Yeah, and let's hope we might talk about big news that's happening or whatever else it is. Yeah, remember, 8 years for a club of our size outside the Premier League isn't good. It's nowhere near good enough.
Big shout out to the Morelli crew. Michael Kitson, Stevie Bopper, and Deco from Nissan and other lads, and Peter Snowball, who does the boxing, Fitness 2000 gym. Big shout out to those guys, and I'm going to give any shout outs, Michael.
No, yeah, I'll just
Michael Bowers, subscribe to Michael Bowers' channel.
Well, obviously, a big shout out to all the Sunderland YouTubers off the top of my head. All ending Jamsani.
Yeah.
Obviously, Mad Mistake, Fan TV, Kyle Don.
Yeah.
There's a couple of other ones I know there
We've
is.
got loads now, man.
We've got loads of Sunderland YouTubers.
Only Phil's and what's he called?
Only Fools and SCFC, yeah. Black Cats TV, there's another one. There's so many of them. There's obviously the podcast, Wise Men Say, What the Folk, Sensible Sunderland, Roker Report.
Yeah,
all of these different podcasts. We've got so much different sort of elements of different podcasts. The We Are Sunderland with Scott Wilson and Dominic Shaw.
Jalsy and Steve.
Jalsy and Steve, I don't know how I forgot to mention them.
How did you forget them?
I know, honestly, there's so many of them you forget, but Jalsy and Steve, they're off their tits most of the time. But it's in a good way. They are
I love
so funny.
Jalsy and Steve.
They're so funny.
Mate.
They're really class.
Right,
So just soak it in. All I've been doing for the last few days is just soaking in content from
just
them.
keep on soaking in, mate.
To be honest, yeah, I'm going to be doing that for the next week probably.
Guess how you kite on the Pepsi Max.
Guess another one if you want.
You're going to drink bigger, do you?
No, I just drink Pepsi Max. Yeah, but honestly, I get high on what's the? It's not dopamine, is it? No, what's the phrase you get high on? Like there's the what's the happy
morphine?
Morphine. That's it. Yeah.
That's a pain relief, but you can get high of it.
Okay, I got it was the pain relief of being stuck in the champion or the EFL rather. But yeah, no, like put it this way, my birthday, exactly at the time of recording, today of recording is Wednesday, 28th of May. My birthday is 4 weeks from today. I've already got the present I wanted. I couldn't give 2 hoots about getting anything material.
Right, so anyway, that is it.
But thanks for watching.
That is it. Please give us a like. Hit the like button. And please search and try and subscribe. It's absolutely free. It doesn't cost a penny.
There's the phrase.
Put the comments down. What you think about the summer. What you think we need to do. What you're expecting and what's your expectations and things like that. And me and Michael will try and get back and reply. So from me and Michael, enjoy your summer.
Yep.
Yeah. Take care and bye for now. Premiership.
We are Premier League. We are Premier League.